Chapter 5281. Enter the Pure Land Trial? Zichen was stunned. No one had informed him of this before he came. The expressions of Vader and the others also changed. Where's the token? The person in charge looked at Leonard. Leonard turned to look at Zichen. Take out the token. We're going in. Why you? Vader looked at Leonard and said, it should be Lord Zichen who will lead us in. That's right. Lord Zichen is the leader. Blue Mountain and Ongeli also echoed loudly. Humph. Orlando snorted coldly. He's the leader. Has he ever thought of himself as the leader? When he encountered danger, whose strength did he rely on? That's right. In our eyes, Lord Leonard is our leader. Kit said coldly. Does he think Zichen is worthy? That's right. We've never thought of him as the leader. The people around Kit also voiced their opinions one after another. The person in charge had clearly never seen such a scene. He crossed his arms and watched the show from the side. He wasn't in a hurry. Zichen said, why do we have to go in together? Vader explained, there are many opportunities inside. Everyone who goes in will gain something. But according to the rules, only the leader of a team can go in if they exceed their realm. Only then did Zichen understand why Luo Ao wanted to come here. Rather than saying that the Alliance paid a huge price for him to come, it was better to say that he wanted the position of leader. But it was obvious that Ju who didn't agree. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been made the leader. Zichen looked at Orlando. It was most likely this guy's idea. We don't agree to let you be the leader, Orlando said indifferently. Because you're not qualified. That's right. You're not qualified. Kit and the others voiced their opinions. After understanding the cause and effect, Zichen naturally wouldn't be nice to them. Do you have the final say? He took out the token. Who has this thing? Kit and the others looked coldly at Zichen. Orlando said, we don't agree. Vote. I agree to let Lord Leonard be the leader. We also agree. Kit and the others immediately chimed in and raised their hands. Even Leonard raised his hand. The guards and the hunchback old man didn't participate, so Zichen's side only had 5 people. Scram. Zichen said coldly, who do you think you are? How dare you question my identity? Here, I am the leader, whether you like it or not. His attitude was extremely unyielding. Vader watched with a face full of excitement. This was the Lord in his heart. Leonard looked at Zichen. Are you sure you won't let me? Zichen said coldly, you're not worthy. Leonard smiled and said, good, very good. He turned around and said to the person in charge who was watching the show, my name is Leonard, and I'm a reserve for the magic soul. I've already passed the assessment. A hint of surprise flashed through the eyes of the person in charge, but he continued, then you don't have the qualifications to enter. Leonard said, then, do I have the right to keep someone here? The other party said, the leader can't. Leonard laughed, I don't want that trash leader. It's him. Let him stay. He reached out and pointed at Vader. Along the way, Vader had been protecting Zichen in every way. He could not stand it anymore. Vader was stunned. Zichen's expression also changed. You can do that. He looked at the person in charge. The person in charge nodded and said, this is the authority given to the magic soul by the Pure Land of Hunting. Leonard looked coldly at Zichen. Now, it's up to you. Zichen's expression was very ugly. He could only take out the token and prepare to give it to Leonard. In fact, he did not care whether he went to the Pure Land or not. Before he came, he had never thought of going in. No, Lord, you can't give it to him. Vader reached out and stopped Zichen. Isn't it just a trial? I'm not going in. Lord, don't let his scheme succeed. Vader actually gave up on his own accord. No need. You can go in. Zichen waved his hand, and the token flew to Leonard. Back then, when Ju who went to Zichen's Pure Land, it was Vader who helped to protect the All Spirits Pure Land. Zichen had to accept this favor. Moreover, Vader was a good person. He did not want this young man to miss the opportunity of the trial. Leonard took the token and smiled mockingly at Zichen. Let's go. With that, he led the people in. Vader's expression was ugly, but at this point, he could only follow them in. Zichen, Orlando, the hunchbacked old man, Carson, and the others could only wait outside. Leonard and the others disappeared into the Pure Land. If you knew this would happen, you wouldn't have done it in the first place. Orlando began to mock and ridicule. Zichen glanced at Orlando. What are you looking at? Am I wrong? Orlando laughed mockingly. I don't know if an 8th grade spell crystal is enough for me to break through. I don't think so. Zichen said, you should have other resources on you, right? Why? You want to kill me? Come on. Orlando was naturally not afraid and began to provoke. Zichen pointed into the distance and said, why don't we go there? Who's afraid of you? Let's go. Orlando's eyes were full of murderous intent. You should thank my magnanimity for being able to live until now. You dare to provoke me instead of kneeling down to thank me? You're really courting death. Carson looked at Zichen worriedly. After all, Orlando was an 8th grade destroyer. At this moment, Vader appeared. Besides him, there was also Ongeli and Lan Shan. The three of them were furious. Zichen looked at the three of them and said in surprise, why did you come out? Vader said angrily, that damned Leonard banished the three of us at the last minute. His courting death. Zichen was furious. He had only given the token to Leonard because Leonard had threatened him with Vader. Now, Leonard had banished Vader. You're not allowed to enter without the token. Otherwise, you'll be killed on the spot. The person in charge said lazily. Didn't you see that guy broke the rules? Zichen said angrily. That person picked his ear. He only broke your rules, not ours. You're going in without permission. You're breaking our rules. Zichen was furious, but he didn't dare to barge in. He could only say, then we'll wait here. When they come out, we'll kill them directly. Of course, Zichen didn't care about a mere Leonard. You. Orlando looked disdainful. Zichen suddenly looked at Orlando. For the first time, murderous intent appeared in his eyes. Today, I'll kill you first. Consider it as collecting some interest. Sir, I still have a token here. Suddenly, the hunchbacked old man said, Sir Jew who gave it to me before we came. He said it was just in case. The hunchbacked old man took out a token. This scene stunned everyone present. Orlando couldn't help but jump up and down. Impossible, how could you still have a token? Our alliance only has this one token. Let's go in and kill him. Zichen took the token and walked forward. Chapter 5282. Zichen was really angry this time. That guy had been very deliberate all the way. No matter how he schemed against him, Zichen didn't care. But he shouldn't have used Vader and expelled them. Seeing Zichen walking forward with the token, Orlando smiled disdainfully. I wanted to kill you outside, but it seems that there's no need. Once he entered, Leo would naturally kill him. Then, Orlando turned his head and looked at the hunchbacked old man. Old man, you have a second token on you. Why didn't you take it out earlier? The hunchbacked old man cupped his fists and said, This is Lord Jew whose order. Unless it's necessary, there's no need to take it out. You're using Jew who to pressure me? Orlando's eyes flashed with murderous intent. I wouldn't dare. Orlando looked at Carson and the others, but he didn't explode in the end. Humph. He snorted coldly. Next, he just had to wait for everyone to come out. As for Zichen, it was naturally impossible for him to live. Zichen led Vader and the others into the pure hunting land again. The area here wasn't big, and there were only a few buildings. What was eye-catching was the core of the pure hunting land. There was an infinitely enlarged light circle, like a world within a world. At this moment, many people were standing outside the light circle. The arrival of Zichen's group attracted some sidelong glances. Such an opportunity was very rare. Which team didn't have more than a dozen people? It was extremely rare to see a team of 4 like Zichen. Lord, look, Kit pointed in the distance. Leo turned his head. When he saw Zichen, he was stunned. How did you come in? The next moment, he roared, How dare you? How dare you barge in without permission? Someone come and kill these guys who ignore the rules of the pure hunting land. Leo's voice wasn't soft and immediately attracted attention. This made more people look at Zichen's group. In the team, A young man was stunned. How could this be? Previously, he gave up on Vader and the others, so he wasn't expelled by Leo. He didn't want to miss this opportunity. Unexpectedly, they came in again in the blink of an eye. There were many people watching the show, but no one came forward. Someone come. Leonard was still shouting. Shut your dog mouth. Zichen glanced at Leonard. The adults here didn't say anything. Who do you think you are? Since both sides had shed all pretense of cordiality, there was naturally no need to be polite. When it came to scolding others, Zichen had practiced for many years and was not afraid of anyone. What did you say? How dare you? Leo was furious. I said you're a dog. Zichen stepped forward, raised his hand, and was about to slap Leonard. He was truly enraged. He had never seen such a shameless person. Vader and the other two were dumbfounded. Along the way, this Lord Chief's performance was nothing out of the ordinary. His temper was extremely good, and he remained indifferent in the face of mockery and ridicule. Who would have thought that he would be so ferocious at this moment, not caring about Laro's identity at all? One must know that when they fell out with Leo earlier, even if the other party expelled the three of them, they still had to be polite and didn't dare to offend him. Kit and the others were the same. He thought to himself, did this guy eat a bear's heart or leopard's gall? He actually dared to attack the future Dharma soul? Fighting is prohibited here. Seeing that the slap was about to land, a faint voice sounded. A middle-aged man appeared in the distance. Go inside, you can fight however you want, but not here. Zichen could only stop and then scolded, consider yourself lucky, you dog. As the future Dharma soul, Leo was respected wherever he went. When had he ever been insulted like this? He was so angry that his face was ashen. He cupped his fists at the middle-aged man and said, My name is Leo. I'm a reserve member who passed the Dharma soul assessment. As soon as this sentence came out, many people's expressions immediately changed. Many captains had vigilance in their eyes. Everyone knew the name of the Dharma soul. Even if he was a reserve member, he was a formidable opponent. Unexpectedly, at this moment, the middle-aged man directly interrupted him. Not to mention that you're a reserve member, even if a Dharma soul comes here, you won't have any privileges. Yes. Leo was furious, but he did not dare to be presumptuous here. However, he was not an ordinary person and quickly controlled his emotions. At the same time, he said to the others, My name is Leo. I hope that after going in, we can become friends and find opportunities together. This time, he did not mention the words Dharma soul and reserve member, which made him seem more humble and immediately gave many people a good impression. Compared to Zichen, they felt that it was easier to make friends with Leo. Hello, Leo. I'm Luo Tuor. After entering the hunting ground, we can cooperate. On the opposite side, a leader immediately cupped his fists. That's right. We can take care of each other. If there's any trouble, we can also help to solve it. With someone taking the lead, the other spirit tribes also expressed their goodwill. Between their words, the intention of forming an alliance was obvious. Kit and the others, listening to such a conversation, were very pleased. No matter how arrogant Zichen was, he was only one person. After entering, only death would await him. Lan Shan and Ongeli were a little worried, but Vader was full of confidence. He had an inexplicable trust in Zichen. Listening to the conversation between the two sides, Zichen's expression did not change much. He did not want to offend everyone here, but if these people were to find trouble with him, he did not mind killing all of them. This was because Vader had explained very clearly that the highest cultivation level of these leaders was only at the 6th level of the Law Destruction realm. The current Zichen was not afraid of such a cultivation level. Even if it was a group fight. The middle-aged man walked over and said indifferently, I'm sure you're clear about the rules. The opportunities inside are up to you. Before that, I still have to remind you that there's a streak of pure soul power inside. If you can obtain and refine it, your soul power will increase greatly. As for whether you have the ability to do so, it's up to you. In addition, if you find any soul skills, you can choose to turn them in. We will naturally reward you greatly. Of course, this is not a requirement. After saying that, the middle-aged man turned and left. The rest of the crowd were all looking forward. The light circle in front suddenly shone brightly, and the passage opened just like that. Everyone looked at each other and then walked forward. Looking at the figures disappearing one after another, Lan Shan and Ongeli's expressions became more and more nervous. Especially those leaders. Before entering, they all looked over with meaningful gazes. Vader comforted the two of them, but it was not very effective. Zichen said, "Don't be nervous. They just want to use us to build a relationship. This is not a bad thing for us." The three of them looked at Zichen in confusion. This was not a bad thing? Chapter 52-83. Zichen's words shocked the three of them. They had been very worried before. After all, those people had looked very unfriendly before they went in. But Sir wasn't worried at all. Instead, he told them to prepare for the breakthrough. They had never seen such a confident lord before. Vader was very excited. He had seen Zichen's methods and had absolute trust and confidence in Zichen. The four of them then entered. The middle-aged man who had just disappeared appeared again. This time, he was followed by an old man. If Zichen and the others were here, they would definitely be able to recognize him. He was too easy to recognize. It was the hunchbacked old man who had brought them here. Can we succeed if we use our only chance? The middle-aged man looked at the entrance with a serious expression. The hunchbacked old man said, "We'll know if we can succeed after we try. Perhaps this is the only suitable person." The middle-aged man shook his head and said, "It has always been said that there is a special soul power here, but no one has really seen it. This hunting pure land had existed for many years. It was said that it was the first hunting pure land that appeared after the upheaval era. It contained a pure soul power from the upheaval era. After the upheaval era, immortal spells and immortal souls had searched countless times, but they didn't find anything. Soul power has a spirit. If it doesn't meet the fated person, how can it appear so easily?" At this moment, the hunchbacked old man's back was straight, and his eyes were as deep as a bottomless abyss. Could it be that he is the fated person? The middle-aged man was doubtful. Previously, when Zichen received the token, he didn't notice the difference. But the middle-aged man who was in charge of guarding this place was very clear about the difference in this token. Whether he is fated or not, we'll know when he comes out. The middle-aged man's mouth moved. He wanted to say that based on the previous situation, the probability of that person coming out was not high. After all, with that Dharma soul in reserve, everyone would definitely join forces to deal with Zichen. But in the end, he didn't say it. After all, he had waited for many years. He didn't want to destroy this confidence. The hunchbacked old man turned and left. The middle-aged man said again, "What if he really comes out? Let's follow the procedure first." The hunchbacked old man walked forward, and his straight back bent again. His eyes that were as deep as the abyss also became turbid again. "Mother ***, you old thing, where the hell did you go?" Orlando looked at the late hunchbacked old man and cursed angrily. "Everything had gone wrong today. I just looked around to see if there's a place for people to stay," the hunchbacked old man said. "You old thing, you still want to find a place to stay? Let me tell you, you will stay here and wait for them to come out. Let's go." Orlando had a look of disgust on his face as he led the guards away. Yes. The hunchbacked old man nodded and bowed. He no longer had the imposing manner he had when talking to the middle-aged man. Zichen and the other three entered the world within a world. What he felt the most was the rich soul power in this place. The soul force here is indeed rich. Vader sighed. "Perhaps I can also take part in the Dharma soul test after I return." Zichen's soul power spread out and discovered an ancestral beast. This ancestral beast's level wasn't high. So far, no one else had been found. This time, Zichen was the leader. He came here to lead everyone to participate in the trial. Therefore, the ancestral beast they encountered needed the three of them to deal with. Zichen brought the three of them forward and stopped after walking for about 5,000 feet. "There's an ancestral beast ahead. The three of you go and deal with it." The three of them were stunned. They did not sense anything. However, Chen was the leader. The three of them had to follow his words. Hence, they rushed forward. 3,000 feet away, the three of them indeed discovered the ancestral beast. Their expressions changed. The battle ahead erupted. Chen stood on a high ground and watched. The ancestral beasts here were clearly different from the outside world. They possessed powerful soul power. This kind of soul power could completely avoid the perception of those in the same realm. Each time they pounced, the ancestral beast's soul power would form a shockwave, causing the three of them to feel very uncomfortable. The three of them were currently at the 8th level spirit technique realm. The ancestral beast was also at this level. But even when the three of them joined forces, they still did not have the obvious upper hand. Chen did not interfere. He just stood there and watched silently. At this moment, in other places, the first thing all the teams that came here was not to look for opportunities. It was to break through realm. As if discussed beforehand, all the leaders made preparations to advance to the 7th level of Law Destruction Realm in an instant. Then break through realm. The battle already lasted for 15 minutes and still did not end. However, Chen also found out some clues. As the battle continued, the three of them had an obvious resistance to that soul power undulation. The ancestral beast's soul power undulation was also strengthening the three people's soul power invisibly. Finally, another 15 minutes passed. The ancestral beast let out a miserable cry and fell to the ground, dead. The three of them were panting heavily. The consumption was tremendous. The dead ancestral beast's body directly disappeared. Nothing was left behind. Chen walked forward, his expression somewhat surprised. Your Excellency, the ancestral beasts here are also called soul beasts. As long as they don't reach the Law Destruction Realm, they will return to this world after dying. Vader saw Chen's confusion and took the initiative to explain. It said that it's because that soul power already gave birth to intelligence and controls everything here. Soul power that gave birth to intelligence. There was a hint of interest in Chen's eyes. Vader nodded and said, "That's right. That's what everyone says. However, for many years, no one has really seen it. Furthermore, most of the people who come here are just looking for some ordinary soul power opportunities. They want to pass the reserve duty assessment and become a first-generation Dharma soul. Is it so important to become a Dharma soul?" Chen continued to walk forward, not giving the three of them any time to recover. Seeing this, the three of them could only follow. Vader said, "Of course. After becoming a Dharma soul, one is destined to be a big shot in the future. That Leonard, although I don't like him, I can't help but admire his talent. Moreover, once he becomes a Dharma soul, under the circumstances that he can refine jade talismans, he will have endless resources in the future. These resources can also help him break through realm quickly. Therefore, his future is really limitless." Vader, who was speaking, took out a jade talisman. It was given to him by Leonard before leaving the Pure Land. He handed the jade talisman to Chen. "Sir, do you want to take a look?" He knew how high Chen's attainments in formations were, and he had always believed that Chen would definitely become a Dharma soul in the future. Chen was indeed interested in jade talismans, especially after obtaining the condensation method. He believed that in this world, no one needed resources more than him. He took the jade talisman and probed with his soul power. The jade talisman was still considered pure, but the condensation method was extremely crude. No wonder it only carried the power equivalent to the 2nd level of Dharma destruction. Chen observed for a few breaths, then stretched out his fingers and formed a seal with one hand. It was imprinted. He reached out and pointed at the jade talisman. Buzz! The jade talisman glowed. Not good, the jade talisman is about to be triggered. Lan Shan was shocked and shouted, "Retreat quickly." The three of them quickly retreated. This was the power equivalent to the 2nd level of Dharma destruction. The three of them couldn't block it at all. A seal appeared in the jade talisman. However, it didn't explode. Instead, it left the jade talisman on its own and floated toward the sky. After reaching the top of Chen's head, it dispersed with a whoosh. The three of them were puzzled, not understanding why it didn't explode. But in the next moment, they saw Zichen forming a seal again, and another seal appeared. This time, Zichen changed from one hand to both hands, and the jade talisman floated in front of him. When the seal was formed, Zichen's hand movements changed again, displaying the condensation method. Buzz. Energy trembled, and the seal came into contact with the jade talisman. After several ripples, the seal disappeared. Chapter 52-84. Vader and the other two immediately stepped forward. When they saw the jade talisman in Zichen's hand, they were all stunned. Sir, this, Vader looked at Zichen in disbelief. Lan Shan and Ongeli were also shocked. It was common knowledge that once a jade talisman was triggered, the array within it would appear and the jade talisman would disappear. But now, not only was the jade talisman undamaged, there was even another array within it. How was this possible? This was completely beyond common sense. Zichen threw the jade talisman back to Vader. I changed the array inside and turned it into a teleportation array. It can save your life at a critical moment. Of course, don't run into Buddha Lotus. This, Vader took the jade talisman, still in disbelief. Sir, you can really refine jade talismans. Zichen said, this is my first attempt. I don't think there's any problem. Why don't you give it a try? When the three heard this, they were even more shocked. This was his first attempt and he had replaced someone else's jade talisman. Wasn't this too amazing? Looking at their expressions, Zichen said, is there something wrong? This is my first attempt. Why don't you give it a try first? I'll change it if there's anything wrong. How could the three of them try a teleportation jade talisman? This thing was a life-saving item. It had always been worth a lot. Sir, why don't you make another one? Vader said, we can take a look as well. Lan Shan and Ongeli nodded repeatedly, their faces full of anticipation. Zichen was a little embarrassed. Sir, what's wrong? Vader saw that Zichen's expression was strange. Zichen said embarrassedly, to be honest, I don't have a blank jade talisman on me. I can't give it a try. When he said this, the three of them were dumbfounded. You're a big shot who can even refine jade talismans, but you don't even have a blank jade talisman on you. Now, the three of them finally understood why their master had replaced Leo's offensive formation array. I have one. Sir, give it a try. Vader quickly took out a jade talisman. Why do you have this thing? Zichen took it and asked doubtfully. Who in the world doesn't want to be a law soul? Vader said, although I don't have the qualifications now, that doesn't stop me from using some blank jade talismans as targets. Zichen gave Vader a look that said, you have a big dream. Now that he had the jade talisman, he decided to give it a try. However, this kind of jade talisman clearly could not seal ordinary formations. Otherwise, it would be a pure waste. Zichen thought for a moment and immediately had an idea. In the next moment, he formed a seal with both hands. Under the shocked gazes of the three people, he sealed another seal that was surging with a terrifying aura. At this point, Zichen's face was slightly pale. It seemed that he had used up a lot of energy. That's it. The three of them were stunned again. Wasn't this too fast? It was said that other Dharma souls required a very long time to condense a jade talisman. Zichen obviously did not know this. He only felt that the gazes of the three people were a little strange. He secretly wondered if he was playing at the wrong pace. He passed the jade talisman to Vader and said, give it a try and see if you can successfully trigger it. There is a Buddhist lotus inside. The so-called Buddhist lotus was the golden Buddha fire lotus. Because it was just an experiment, Vader did not feel the pinch. In the next moment, he directly crushed the jade talisman and triggered it. Buzz! The jade talisman shattered, and the seal within appeared. A fire lotus slowly bloomed in the sky, and scorching waves of fire spread in all directions. At the same time, a dazzling golden Buddha sat cross-legged on the fire lotus. The space within a radius of 2,000 feet was enveloped by this strange energy. It is indeed the golden Buddha fire lotus, Vader exclaimed. Zichen said again, try the one just now. Vader nodded and took out the one just now to trigger it. Buzz! Light enveloped his body, and Vader disappeared. In the next moment, He appeared at the edge of the light enveloping the golden Buddha fire lotus. Lan Shan and Ongeli were so shocked that they could not say a word. This was simply too shocking. This was too inconceivable. Veda ran back and said excitedly, "Sir, you are a Dharma soul." "Definitely a Dharma soul. I am not a Dharma soul." Zichen smiled. He was in a good mood. This meant that he would have a source of income in the future. Veda nodded repeatedly. "You are right. Sir is not a Dharma soul. Sir is a legend. That bullshit Leonard is not even fit to carry Sir's shoes." As Veda spoke, he took out all the blank jade talismans he had. There were a total of 9 of them. "Sir, for you. You will need them." Zichen did not stand on ceremony. He indeed needed these things. Therefore, he made 3 more teleportation jade talismans in an instant and handed them to the 3 of them. They were used to save their lives. This kind of spending was much more than Leonard's. Then, Zichen began to condense again. "Although I know that Dharma souls can be condensed into jade talismans, I also heard that each condensing requires a lot of energy. I have never heard of continuous condensing." Lan Shan muttered behind him. Ongeli was also nodding. Veda smiled. "Sir has many tricks up his sleeve. It is not an exaggeration to say that Sir is a legend. As for that Leonard, he is not even fit to carry Sir's shoes. If you don't believe me, just wait and see." The 2 of them naturally believed him. At least in terms of condensing jade talismans, Sir Zichen's tricks were much more brilliant than Leonard's. Zichen quickly finished condensing the next few jade talismans. After that, he distributed them to the 3 of them to prevent any accidents from happening. The ancestral beasts that they encountered next would be used to train their soul power. The battle in front was still ongoing. The 3 of them were working together to deal with a 9th stage realm ancestral beast. Zichen was watching the battle from the side. Suddenly, he looked into the distance and there was a slight change in his expression. A Dharma extermination level ancestral beast was stealthily lurking towards this place. Veda and the other 2 could not sense the other party's aura. The distance between both parties was getting closer and closer, but the 3 of them still had no reaction. Zichen then knew why they had to let a leader in. Without the leader's protection, none of these cultivators who had not reached the Dharma extermination realm would be able to leave this place alive. Zichen waved his hand and a ray of light flew out. Like a bolt of lightning, it sped forward. The ray of light passed through the grass and gave off a puff sound. After that, the ray of light started to circulate. The dead ancestral beast's body started to decompose and the ray of light gathered in front of them, condensing into a crystal the size of a thumb. This was the soul crystal. Everyone's main purpose for coming here. Zichen waved his hand again and the soul crystal flew over from afar. He sensed that the soul power in it was not weak. To him, it was not very useful, but to the 3 of them, this was an incredible opportunity. The soul crystal was divided into 3 in Zichen's hand. The 3 of them ended the battle and started to refine the soul crystal. If they raised their soul power before advancing to the Dharma extermination realm, the chances of it becoming a Dharma soul would be higher after the advancement. Just as the 3 of them were refining the soul crystal, a cold laugh suddenly rang. "What a coincidence, I didn't expect to meet you at this time." A team walked over from afar. Chapter 5285. Seeing that someone had appeared, Lan Shan and Ongeli's expressions became nervous. When they looked at the number of people on the other side, their expressions suddenly changed. The leader had a cold smile on his face. Zichen looked at the other side calmly. "Looks like my luck is not bad." The leader in front laughed sinisterly. "Later, take your head and find that Leonard. I think I should be able to obtain his friendship." Zichen said, "Aren't you afraid that your death will delay the trial of those people behind you?" As soon as this sentence came out, it immediately attracted a lot of ridicule. The dozen or so spiritual masters behind were the same. The leader smiled and said, "You've considered it thoroughly. In order not to affect the trial of those behind you, I will kill them together." Zichen's eyes were slightly cold. "Are you serious?" The leader said, "You tell him if I'm serious or not." The dozen or so trial takers all began to laugh. "Sir, there's no need to do anything. We'll kill these 3, One of them shouted. Is it appropriate to kill 3? Kill the 2 men and leave the woman behind. She can relieve our loneliness. That's right, that's how it should be. The eyes of those trial takers fell on Ongeli, and they were very unfriendly. Being stared at by these people was like being remembered by a pack of wolves. Ongeli felt uncomfortable and took a step back, hiding behind Vader. This action immediately attracted even louder laughter. Chen snorted coldly, looks like you're jackals of the same tribe. Then there's no problem. I won't have any psychological burden after killing you. Hearing Sir Chen's words, Blue Mountain and Ongeli also had confidence in their hearts. Chen released his aura. Level 4 of Law Destruction. The surroundings instantly became quiet. Dead silence. The hope that Blue Mountain and Ongeli had just ignited was instantly shattered. You're serious? The leader in front was stunned and almost couldn't believe his eyes. Even the trial takers behind him were momentarily dazed. Level 4 of Law Destruction. What kind of realm was this? The leaders of the past years had never been so weak. Vader, did Sir make a mistake? Blue Mountain muttered softly. That's right. That's what a legend is. Vader was still full of confidence in Chen. I thought that you had someone backing you up, but who would have thought that you're just a fool? The leader's eyes flashed with killing intent. Since you are an idiot, then I have no reason to allow you to live. Buzz. Husai also released her own aura. The 7th level of annihilation. He was 3 whole realms higher than Chen. Did you see that? Did you see that? 7th stage realm. All of you, just wait for your deaths. That little girl, just wait to be touched by us. Behind Husai, the other trial challengers began to laugh. Arrogant. Chen snorted coldly. He tapped the ground with his feet and made the first move. As he charged forward, a formation appeared before him. There was acceleration and afterburner. One formation after another appeared, looking extremely dazzling. Those mocking laughs couldn't help but become softer. Husai sneered, flashy but impractical. The core of his power erupted as he looked at the incoming Chen and punched out. Boom! A tyrannical aura surged as Chen was sent flying by the punch. This result caused everyone to be stunned once again. Wasn't he too weak? Chen, who had landed on the ground, moved his muscles and bones and said, just a mere 7th stage realm, nothing much. He was actually ridiculed. Husai roared, are you an idiot? I can send you flying with just 1 punch without any effort. Chen said coldly, is that so? Then let's try again. Chen charged forward for the 2nd time. With the help of the formation, he looked decent. But he was still defeated with 1 punch. But Chen wasn't injured. He provoked again and continued to attack. 3rd time in defeat. 4th time in defeat. 5th time in defeat. Everyone was dumbfounded. This Chen had a big mouth and provoked again and again. But his battle power was really not enough. Of course, he didn't die. His vitality was considered tenacious. But on the 8th time, Chen was no longer unscathed. Fart. He was beaten until he vomited blood. Vader, what's the situation now? Should we run? Lan Shan didn't have any confidence. This Sir Chen was obviously unreliable. Vader shook his head. He also didn't understand the situation. The Sir's ability was naturally not limited to this. The crowd in front was still ridiculing him. There was almost no suspense in this battle. Chen vomited blood, but he still stood up and charged forward tenaciously. But he was beaten back again. From what everyone saw, he was only left with tenacity. Death was only a matter of time. Chen, who had been beaten back more than 10 times, stood up once again. He staggered and blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. It looked like his injuries weren't light. But his gaze was still sharp as he stared coldly at Husai. Wiping off the blood from the corner of his mouth, Chen said coldly, your strength isn't bad. But if you want to kill me, you're still a little lacking. Next, I won't stand on ceremony. This sentence had undoubtedly amused everyone and attracted even more ridicule. Husai even crooked his finger at Chen. Come, Let me take a look. Chen stomped his foot. The ground shook as he charged forward. It was no different from before. A hint of disdain flashed across Husai's mouth. With a piece of trash like you, I can just stand here and let you hit me. You can't do anything to me. As soon as he finished speaking, he threw another punch. He had thrown more than 10 attacks like this. But at this moment, he suddenly felt his body become heavy. The pressure around him changed instantly, and the direction of his punch also changed. His body staggered. It was gravity. His expression changed abruptly as he tried to adjust his body. But it was too late. Buzz. More than 10 arrays appeared around Chen in an instant, increasing his strength. At the same time, Chen's power core also fully erupted, causing a terrifying pressure to appear out of nowhere. He easily dodged Husai's attack, then closed in on his opponent and smashed his fist into his opponent's chest. Boom! There seemed to be a clap of thunder that exploded out of nowhere. The energy fluctuation spread out in all directions. The impact of the collision sent the crowd that had been mocking him flying. Smoke and dust billowed as sand and stones flew. Everyone who had retreated was shocked as they stared in front of them in shock. This kind of unforeseen event happened too quickly. When the smoke and dust dissipated, they looked ahead. They saw Chen. They also saw Husai. Who won and who lost? At this moment, everyone was staring ahead, eager to know the answer. Chen's body swayed, and he directly sat on the ground. He lost. Lan Shan and Ongeli's faces immediately turned pale. The two of them were in despair. Vader still didn't understand. He didn't believe that Lord Chen would lose. Haha, he really lost. I knew it. This guy can't do it. Those people began to laugh and then stared coldly at Vader and the other two. There were also a few people who looked wantonly at Ongeli's body. But in the next moment, their laughter came to an abrupt end. Husai's body fell backward. After falling to the ground, he didn't have any reaction. At this moment, Chen stood up. His face was pale, and his body was still shaking. He looked very weak. Chapter 5286. Chen's face was pale and he looked extremely weak, but he had won. Those who were mocking him all widened their eyes as they looked at this scene in disbelief. Earlier the battle was still one-sided, so why did the tables suddenly turn? No one could figure out the reason for this. Lan Shan and Ongeli were also stunned as they didn't dare to believe it. Vader was also puzzled. He knew his overlord's ability and it wasn't difficult for him to kill a 7th stage realm cultivator. But why did he do this? Why did he intentionally make it seem so difficult? Just at this moment, Chen turned around and said to those shocked cultivators, "I don't bully the weak so you guys can leave." These people were stunned again. He was going to let them off. But when they looked at Chen, his face was pale and even standing was probably a problem. This was obviously a serious injury and he didn't have any strength to continue fighting. Asking everyone to leave now was obviously not merciful. They thought that Chen was unable to fight back. Under such circumstances, if everyone joined forces, they might be able to kill him. Some of them started to change their expressions. Chen gave a cold harumph and said, "Why, I let you live, don't tell me you want to die." Vader and the other two immediately moved forward and came to Chen's side. These 10 over-cultivators took a look at the 4 of them and after exchanging glances, they left decisively. Chen heaved a sigh of relief. Lan Shan and the others also heaved a sigh of relief. This crisis was considered to have been avoided. To tell the truth, he was really afraid that these people would suddenly join forces to deal with the 4 of them. Based on his overlord's current condition, he might not be able to block everyone's attack. Only Vader was still full of confidence in Chen. "See that? I told you that his overlord is a legend." Lan Shan and Ongeli nodded their heads and smiled, but this smile was much uglier than crying. This kind of legend which made one on tenterhooks wasn't what they wanted. Asterisk 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 asterisk. That fellow is obviously seriously injured, so why don't we join forces to kill him? I want to too, but as a Dharma extermination realm cultivator, he definitely has ways to escape, so we might not be able to trap him. If he escapes, to us, it would be a disaster. That's true. Who would have thought that Husai was actually killed by a 4th stage realm practitioner? He was too careless, and his opponent was cunning enough to hold back his strongest move. Sigh. What should we do now? Without a leader, it will be difficult for us to continue. Let's go find the other teams. We just happen to have information on that guy. After a short exchange, the dozen or so people left. When Leo entered this place, he broke through his realm first. Kit and the others were extremely excited. His excellency was already powerful, and now that he had broken through, he would naturally be even more powerful. After that, Luo didn't bring them to the trial. Instead, he went to look for other teams. Just like that, he had already gathered 3 teams of people. One of them was called Luo Tuor. Coincidentally, Husai's men also came looking for him. They told Luo the details of what had happened. The moment Luo Tuor heard, he said in surprise, "That idiot actually has such strength. A mere 4th stage realm cultivator can kill a 7th stage realm cultivator?" The other 2 were also amazed. Kit and the others were listening with strange expressions on their faces. Was that guy really that powerful? Or was it a blind cat bumping into a dead mouse? Luo Tuor said, "Don't be careless. He has already killed more than one 7th stage realm cultivator." What? Luo Tuor and the others' faces changed, feeling incredulous. The other party was just a 4th stage realm cultivator. Luo Tuor said, "In the Alliance, there's a person called Spec who was killed by him." When Kit and the others heard that, their faces changed. Of course they knew who Spec was. They also knew that Spec was killed when he was out on a mission. But they had never thought that he was killed by Zichen. That Zichen who had never dared to talk back to them all the way, no matter how they ridiculed him, was he really that powerful? That's all right. At most, he can kill a 7th stage realm cultivator. As long as the 2 of us join forces, killing a mere 4th stage realm cultivator is as easy as flipping our palms. Luo Tuor said. Luo Tuor said, "Don't be careless. The 3 of you go together. Just in time, I'll use the strange array to search for that soul power. I've long found that guy an eyesore. Just nice, let's go take a look." That 3rd leader also nodded with a smile. Following that, he turned back to look at the group of cultivators. "I'm going to kill him. Who's going?" "I'll go." "Me too. I'll go take a look too." When this sentence was said, the crowd responded in unison. Their own leader was going to kill someone, of course they had to support him. Husai's subordinates also stood out one by one. They had lost their leader and needed to rely on someone. Kit and the others also wanted to go, but since Luo Tuor didn't want to go, they were too embarrassed to bring it up. The group set off. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Although Zichen had won, but Lanshan and Ongeli were still worried. Although Sir Zichen had killed Husai, but he wasn't as powerful as they thought. If he met other people, they didn't know if he would be so lucky. "Please don't have any more trouble," the 2 of them muttered in their hearts. There was a movement in front. The 2 of them took a look and their faces immediately turned pale. A group of people had arrived. Zichen had already stopped and looked indifferently in front. What a coincidence, what a coincidence. Luo Tuor smiled coldly and walked forward. During this time, the 3 of them separated and moved forward in a semicircle. Zichen didn't run and wouldn't run. Ongeli and Lanshan had already given up hope. With 3 leaders here, there was absolutely no chance of survival. This time, it was completely over. Vader was also slightly nervous. "I heard you killed Husai. You have some tricks up your sleeve." Luo Tuor sneered, "I just don't know how your tricks will fare in front of us." Zichen looked at the people behind him and said, "I'll consider you all challengers and leave quickly, and I won't kill you." As soon as this sentence came out, unsurprisingly, it attracted mockery. "Idiot, who are you trying to scare? Last time you were bluffing and we didn't expose you. I didn't expect you to play this trick again. Get over here if you have the ability." The crowd naturally wouldn't retreat. All kinds of taunts and mockery sounded. Zichen said again, "Everyone, we have no past grievances and no recent enmity. I really don't want to kill you. You can all retreat." This time, Zichen looked at everyone in front of him. Ignoring the mockery, he said seriously, "If all of you want to retreat, you can live. I promise. But if you don't, you will all die. I promise." Zichen's "I promise" was very powerful. Haha. Ridiculous. But no one appreciated it. The mockery became louder. Zichen sighed and then turned to look at the three people. "The three of you, retreat 5,000 feet away." "What, you want them to escape? Stop dreaming. Those two men must die, and the woman must be left to us." Immediately, a trial taker began to shout. Then, the jeering became even louder. Zichen smiled when he heard this. "All right, then you guys can stay here." He stopped smiling and his eyes turned cold. "Stay and watch me kill you." As soon as he finished speaking, Zichen stomped his feet. Buzz. A spirit formation appeared from under his feet and extended to a radius of 5,000 feet. Within this 5,000 feet, the gravity between heaven and earth increased infinitely. The 3 level 7 Dharma annihilation cultivators swayed and almost fell. As for the other challengers, including Vader and the other two, they immediately collapsed on the ground and lost their combat power. They were shocked. Even the 3 level 7 Dharma annihilation cultivators' expressions changed drastically. At this moment, Zichen looked up at the sky again. He didn't form any hand seals. He just took a look. Buzz. Another spirit formation appeared there. The spirit formation shone and the lines intersected. Infinite light fell from above. These light rays were like sharp blades that stabbed at the crowd. Puff, 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 puff. As if the power of destruction had descended, a scene of slaughter appeared. Chapter 5287. Rays of light fell from the sky, bringing with it a terrifying destructive power. There were whales all around. Lan Shan and the other two sat paralyzed on the ground, looking around, their faces full of shock. Those cultivators, in front of these rays of light, had no power to fight back. "Do you have any shame? A spell destroyer actually attacked a spirit realm cultivator. Quickly stop. You're a disgrace to the spell destroyer realm. If you want your face, quickly stop." Someone was roaring. Facing these voices, Zichen did not respond. He had already given them a chance, but their choice was to continue mocking and ridiculing. This meant giving up their lives. "Quickly run. Quickly leave this place." The others were also shouting. Some took out jade talismans, wanting to escape. To be able to come here for the trial, everyone more or less had some family background, so naturally they had their own life-saving methods. Zichen began to form seals. Wang. There was another array in the sky, covering a radius of 500 feet. Golden Buddha Fire Lotus. Under the envelopment of the array's light, this place seemed to have formed a world of its own. Those cultivators who triggered the jade talismans only escaped to the edge of the area and did not leave. Looking up at the golden Buddha in the sky, they were all in despair. They could only hope that the three leaders could kill the other party. "Ha!" One of the leaders shouted and charged towards Zichen. Zichen's body flashed with golden light, and a tyrannical aura surged. He threw out a punch. It was just a single punch. It was as if there was a golden sun in front of him. Boom! The golden fist light exploded in front of him, and that leader's defense was shattered, and his body flew backwards. After landing, there was no sign of life. He was dead. Looking at Zichen again, his aura was still tyrannical, or rather, he was not injured at all. Compared to the previous battle, the disparity was too great. This, Lan Shan and Ongeli felt incredulous. How could this be? In the distance, those who were fortunate enough to witness the previous battle were also stunned at this moment. This was not scientific. It should not be like this. At this moment, Zichen threw out a second punch, and the golden light exploded again. Boom! The second 7th stage realm cultivator was dead. It was still one punch. The last 7th stage realm cultivator, Luo Tuor, retreated without hesitation when he saw this scene. His strength was slightly stronger. Zichen dashed forward. One punch. The defense was broken. Another punch. This time, he used 2 punches to end the battle. Corpses were everywhere. The speed at which the battle ended was completely beyond Vader's imagination. He had always believed that Lord Zichen would win. As for Lan Shan and Ongeli, they sat there paralyzed as if they had been petrified. Even though the pressure around them had disappeared, the two of them remained motionless. This was too inconceivable. A 4th stage realm cultivator could kill a 7th stage realm cultivator with one punch. Even though they had seen it with their own eyes, the two of them still found it hard to believe. Then, Zichen said, "Don't just stand there. Hurry up and collect the loot." At the same time, he also walked up and took back the items from the 3 spell destroyers. Is this true? While collecting the spoils of war, Blue Mountain was still in disbelief. Vader laughed. "Now that I say that Sir is a legend, do you believe me? This is my lord's true strength. Who does that Leo think he is?" The two nodded. This time, they were completely convinced. None of the people who came were left alive. Sir treated you sincerely, but who knew that you didn't appreciate it? Looking at those corpses, Vader couldn't help but shake his head. According to Sir's character, if someone had left earlier, they would naturally be able to survive. Unfortunately, they were too confident. Now, they were all dead. After collecting the spoils of war, the 4 of them left. Not long after they left, the corpses on the ground suddenly disintegrated and then disappeared into thin air. Not even their bones were left. 10 miles away, the 4 of them stopped. Zichen said, "You guys should increase your strength first." They had obtained quite a number of spoils of war from killing the enemies. Other than the 7th stage realm items, the rest were divided among the 3 of them. At this moment, they had quite a number of resources with them. Vader nodded and the 3 of them started to refine the resources. Zichen also started to cultivate. Asterisk 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 100 miles away, a young man stopped. The battle has ended. Previously, he had sensed a terrifying aura and was curious, so he led the others forward. But they hadn't gone far when the aura disappeared. The battle ended so quickly. It must be an expert. Someone beside him said. The young man nodded. It should be that Luo Ao. The expression of the person beside him changed. Sir, are you talking about that Dharma Hun? To be able to pass the assessment of Dharma Hun and become a reserve member is enough to prove that he is extraordinary. The young man said, among these people, he is considered as one of my competitors. The person beside him said, Sir, why would you care about him? So what if he is a reserve member of Dharma Hun? Sir is a martial artist and can kill him with one punch in a direct confrontation. Even so, we can't be careless. The young man clenched his fist. I have just condensed the core of the real body and my power is still unstable. It is not easy for me to meet someone with Dharma Hun in advance. That's true. Let's not fight with him for now. The young man looked up at the sky. But this won't stop me from seizing that soul power. A ray of light flashed past his eyes. When Dharma Hun and Dharma Hun combine, there will be no problem to become an immortal martial artist. The world knew about Dharma Hun and immortal soul bloodline, but there were very few people who knew about Dharma Hun and immortal martial artists. Dharma Hun was one of the best in the spirit clan. Then Dharma Hun was an existence with the core of the real body, and each one of them had a terrifying physical strength. As for immortal martial artists, they were a group of people who had cultivated their physical body to the peak and could fight against the immortal soul clan. The cultivator beside him said excitedly, This opportunity will definitely belong to Sir. The young man smiled. I hope so. His gaze gradually turned sharp. If anyone dares to snatch it from me, then don't blame me for not being courteous. To be able to condense the real core at 6th stage realm, even among the practitioners, there are only a handful of them. Sir, I heard that the strongest power in the immortal martial clan is immortal martial force, and it is not weaker than the strongest immortal soul force. It is said that only those with the immortal martial bloodline and the immortal martial body can condense this kind of power. Is this true? The cultivator was curious. Of course it is true. The young man's eyes shone. My biggest goal in life is to have a trace of immortal martial force. The cultivator beside him was also looking forward to it. The young man muttered to himself. But I heard that during the Age of Turmoil, there was a kind of strongest power called immortal force. It is said that this kind of power could destroy the heavens and earth and could exist forever with the heavens and earth. It is a pity that after the Age of Turmoil, this kind of power went extinct and the immortal martial force became the strongest physical strength after the Age of Turmoil. The cultivator said, since it has gone extinct, then it is definitely not the strongest power. Otherwise, it would have been passed down like the immortal martial force. Maybe. The group of people turned around and headed towards the depths. They were only a few miles away from Chen and the other three, so they missed them. On the other side, Luo had been leading the group deeper and did not give them any time to cultivate. He had solved all the dangers. "Sir, are you looking for something?" Kit, who had been following them, couldn't help but ask curiously. "I am the future Dharma soul, so it is easy for me to get a slot. But why did I come here to fight with an idiot for a slot?" Luo smiled coldly. "Of course it is because I can find the soul force that caused the Age of Turmoil." After saying this, Luo waved his hand. A talisman appeared in front of him. The material of the talisman was not jade but a rare kind of paper. It was simple and yellow. Chapter 5288. Leo waved his hand, and an ancient talisman appeared, shaking heaven and earth. It was the first time Kit and the others had seen this kind of talisman. While they were curious, they couldn't bear the pressure and retreated. "This is called the Soul Capture Talisman." Leo looked at the ancient talisman floating in the air, and his expression became extremely excited. "With this, that soul power is mine. It can only be mine." He reached out and pointed. Wang. The ancient talisman surged out ripples, and a strange power went straight to the sky. This power turned into a palm in the sky. Between heaven and earth, the ancient power was shaking. The palm grabbed at the void. Boom! The void shattered, and a black soul light was directly grabbed out. "This is that soul power." Kit and the others opened their eyes wide, looking at this scene in shock. This power had always been a legend, and no one had truly obtained it, and no one had even seen it. Unexpectedly, it appeared this time. After this soul power was captured, it began to struggle. However, the ancient talisman's power firmly locked onto it, making it unable to escape. Leo looked at that soul power and sneered, "You are mine." The soul power was still struggling. "It's useless, you can't escape at all, just obediently wait for me to refine you." Leo walked forward, trying to refine that soul power. The soul power's frequency of struggling slowed down, and it was unknown if it had accepted its fate. Yes, just like that. Leo reached out his hand, ready to summon this power. With this power, in the future, he would have the chance to become an immortal soul, reigning supreme. Suddenly, the power trembled, releasing a strong light. The entire Pure Land also began to shake, as if the world was about to collapse. Everyone could clearly feel it. Kit and the others nearby lost their balance and fell to the ground one by one. "This is..." Leo's expression changed slightly. Between heaven and earth, countless soul powers appeared. These soul powers appeared from the sky, and then fell like raindrops. One of them reached out his hand, and the soul power fell into his palm, disappearing in the next moment. When the soul power entered his body, his eyes immediately lit up. "Such pure soul power," he shouted excitedly. Then, he immediately sat cross-legged and began to refine the soul power that fell on his body. Seeing this, Kit and the others all sat down cross-legged. "Damn it!" Leo was enraged. He shouted at the heaven and earth soul power in the sky, "These are all mine. How dare you squander them?" However, after sensing that the soul power aura didn't show any signs of weakening, his expression eased slightly. With a wave of his hand, he prepared to retrieve this strand of soul power. He suddenly realized that the power of the ancient talisman was no longer under his control. He was stunned and found it hard to believe. Then, he seemed to have thought of something and said in surprise, "Could it be that the test has already begun?" He knew a little about the soul power in the Pure Land. Finding them was only the first step. The next step was to pass the test. Only by passing the test would one be able to completely refine it. "That's fine too. I don't believe that anyone can compete with me in this place." Leo also sat down cross-legged and began to refine the soul force falling from above. It had to be said that this soul power was extremely pure, much purer than the soul power obtained from killing the ancestral beast. Regardless of whether this was a test or not, just the soul power alone was a great opportunity for him. Zichen and the others were refining resources. The spoils of war this time were enough for Vader and the other two to break through. Hum. 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 The three of them didn't disappoint and broke through one after another. At this point, their realms had all reached the 9th level of the spiritual spell realm, only one step away from the spell annihilation realm. The three of them were extremely excited and bowed to Zichen to thank him. If it wasn't for Zichen, it was obviously impossible for them to break through so quickly. The four of them continued to go deeper. Not long after, the world suddenly shook. Like a huge earthquake, the mountain peak in the distance collapsed and rocks rolled down. Vader and the other two's expressions changed drastically as they looked around, thinking that danger had appeared. Zichen looked up at the sky. He sensed the abnormality in the world coming from the vault of heaven. Just as his soul power was exploring where the abnormality came from, a soul power light rain suddenly fell from the sky. The light rain fell on his body and caused ripples. Sensing the energy within, his expression changed slightly. What pure soul power! When he turned his head again, he saw that Vader and the others had already sat down and started to cultivate again. Zichen shook his head but didn't stop them. However, he was very curious as to why there was so much soul power in the world. Was it an illusion? Zichen sensed for a moment and didn't find anything unusual. The soul power landed on his body and entered his sea of consciousness, but it didn't turn into pure energy. Instead, it fused with his soul power. This situation was like the meeting of water and a sponge. The sponge absorbed the water drop by drop, but there was no change. Zichen didn't understand. What was going on? After absorbing the soul power, why didn't his soul power grow stronger? He looked at the other three. After absorbing the light rain, their soul power had improved greatly. Vader and the other two improved rapidly and didn't have the same doubts as Zichen. They were frantically absorbing the pure soul power between heaven and earth. Could it be because of their realms? Perhaps their realms were too low, which was why there was such an obvious change. Hence, he retreated into the distance and found an empty place. Then, he released his soul power and began to devour the soul light rain falling from heaven and earth. Buzz. With Zichen as the center, a vortex appeared. At first, it was only 30 feet. All the soul light rain that fell within this range was swept into the vortex. Then, the vortex began to expand. 90 feet, 100 feet, 200 feet, soon, it expanded to 100 feet. The soul light rain within 100 feet entered Zichen's body through the vortex. The surging soul power was completely absorbed by Zichen. But there was still no reaction. His soul power didn't grow at all. Zichen was a little puzzled. Even if he refined a piece of soul crystal, he would still feel it. Why was it like this now? Buzz. The vortex continued to expand. Soon, it reached a range of 500 feet. At this moment, the soul power gathered by the vortex was like a column of water that spiraled into Zichen's body. The soul power contained in it was extremely pure and surging. After entering Zichen's sea of consciousness, it quickly fused with his soul. But there was still no feeling of it growing stronger. I don't believe it. Zichen gritted his teeth and the vortex expanded again. After reaching a distance of 3,000 feet, Zichen began to feel strained. At this moment, the soul power that entered his body was like a water dragon. Buzz. 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 On Zichen's side, he still didn't feel anything special. In the direction of Vader and the other two, there was a strange aura again. The three of them had broken through to the spell destroyer realm one after another. At the same time, their soul power had undergone a qualitative transformation. In just a moment, they had broken through to the next realm. It was enough to see how extraordinary this soul light rain was. When the three of them finished breaking through, they looked ahead. All of them were shocked. Within a radius of 10,000 feet, the soul light rain between heaven and earth gathered and turned into soul dragons that flew towards Zichen. This method of absorption was almost plundering. Not long ago, they saw Lord Zichen's massacre. Chapter 5289. His Excellency's speed of absorbing the soul light rain was close to plundering, which made one blush with shame. See that, this is His Excellency. Vader was all smiles. Looking at His Excellency's absorption speed, it wouldn't be long before he could break through. His Excellency at 4th stage realm was already so powerful, 5th stage realm would naturally be even better. By then, when they entered the depths, it would naturally be a smooth journey. The three of them who had broken through stood silently by the side and waited. Time started to pass. The trio's expressions changed from the initial anticipation to puzzlement. The scene in front was still huge and the vortex's boundary was also expanding, but His Excellency had not broken through yet. Lan Shan muttered, "Is breaking through from 4th stage realm to 5th stage realm a huge hurdle?" The originally confident Vader's expression changed slightly. "Perhaps His Excellency is different, let's wait a little longer." This wait lasted until they had advanced to 2nd stage of Dharma extermination realm. And this was under the condition that they hadn't refined enough to break through. After breaking through, they realized that absorbing the soul energy no longer had any effect. But His Excellency still hadn't broken through. This made the trio very puzzled. Suddenly, the vortex surrounding Zichen disappeared. He stopped absorbing. The trio immediately went up and Vader asked in astonishment, "His Excellency has broken through?" Zichen shook his head, "Not yet." Looking at the trio and sensing their realm aura, he smiled, "Congratulations." The trio had advanced to 2nd stage of Dharma extermination realm. Why hasn't His Excellency broken through? Vader was puzzled. Zichen shook his head, he didn't understand why either. The amount of soul energy he had refined was actually a lot, but after entering his consciousness, it was like a clay ox entering the sea, disappearing without a trace. Whereas in other places, the leaders who had come here had all advanced in succession. 8th stage of Dharma extermination realm. Come on, let's go in and take a look. Zichen could vaguely sense that the root of all these was in the depths. Under the circumstances where he couldn't break through, he had to go in and take a look. While moving forward, Zichen started to sense his own soul energy. After refining so much energy, it wasn't completely useless. He could clearly sense that his soul energy had some changes. It was more condensed. When they moved forward again, it was completely unobstructed. All the ancestral beasts seemed to have disappeared. The leaders who had come here had broken through one after another and advanced towards the depths. When they arrived, Leo was still refining his soul force. When they saw the shackled soul power in the sky, their expressions changed. Then, one by one, they charged forward madly. Right at this moment, a terrifying aura was released from Leo's body. He had also made a breakthrough in his cultivation at a critical moment. 8th stage realm Luo Ao's soul power surged around him like a tidal wave, giving off a dangerous feeling. Immediately, several people subconsciously stopped. When the others saw this, they stopped as well. "Everyone, I used an ancient talisman to extract this soul power." Leo said indifferently, "So, it's mine. This kind of opportunity is only yours if you get it. Right now, it's still in the sky, so everyone has the right to fight for it." One of them said in a deep voice. Naturally, they knew who Leonard was. Back then, Leonard had introduced himself, so the astrals were relatively restrained. "That's right. Everyone has the right to compete here." The others spoke one after another, unwilling to fall out with Leonard at this time. "You talk too much." Right at this moment, an indifferent voice sounded, only to see several mantis demons rushing forward. They would not give Leo face. If this soul power was obtained by Leo, it would definitely be a huge loss to the mantis demons. Courting death. A cold glint flashed past Leo's eyes. His soul power surged like an arrow, shooting towards the mantis demons across the sky. The mantis demons who were in the air for a short moment all felt a pain in their heads and fell from the sky. When the astrals leaders saw this, their expressions changed. Was this the strength of a reserve Dharma soul? Every reserve Dharma soul who passed the assessment had extraordinary soul power. At this moment, they had witnessed it. But this was obviously not the end, but the beginning. Next, they truly witnessed the power of a reserve Dharma soul. His hands formed seals and an array appeared. An array that enveloped a radius of 5,000 feet appeared, releasing a vast aura. Die. A mantis demon who landed charged forward. Leonard glanced at him indifferently and uttered a single word. Bang! A ray of light descended from the array in the sky. The light turned into a small array in front of the mantis demon. The mantis demon crashed into it. A powerful force suddenly erupted from the array. Bang! The mantis demon was sent flying. In mid-air, a line of blood streaked across. More mantis demons rushed forward. The light from the array in the sky descended again and turned into a small array, sending the nearby mantis demons flying. The mantis demons who were sent flying were either injured or coughing up blood. Leo stood under the array and blocked the attacks of 8 mantis demons with his own strength. These mantis demons were all in the 8th stage. Everyone in the distance was extremely shocked. Was this the strength of a Dharma soul? In this case, who could be his match? Sir, what should we do now? Among the crowd, a astrals cultivator asked. Beside him was a young man who was a martial artist. The young man said in a deep voice, "He is very cunning. He only stopped those mantis demons and did not engage in a life and death battle. This way, his consumption will be much lower and he will be able to maintain full strength." Looking up at the soul light, a cold glint flashed past the young man's eyes. Things were much more troublesome than he had imagined. Suddenly, there was an earth-shaking movement in front of them. The mantis demons had used a powerful method. Demonic shadows appeared from all directions and pressured Leo at the same time. Leo snorted coldly and his hands started to form seals. The array in the sky began to rotate, and every time it rotated, the patterns would intertwine and there would be a terrifying aura surging out. Following that, several rays of light flew out like arrows leaving the bow and went straight for the mantis demons. Along with the sound of popping, those demonic shadows disappeared one by one. At this moment, Leo was in high spirits and looked invincible. Kit and the others were extremely excited. Following such a lord, why would they worry about not having opportunities? All of you, retreat quickly. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing you. Leo's eyes became sharp for the first time. Terrifying soul power flew out from Leo's mind and surged in the surroundings. The mantis demons were all injured, and when they saw Leo's aura surging, none of them dared to rush forward. They were mortal enemies with the astrals. Once everyone was injured, those who were watching the show might attack them. Who would have thought that such a person would come from the astrals this time? Seeing that the mantis demons no longer went forward, Leo smiled faintly and then looked up at the soul power above. The test has been passed. You are mine. As he reached out, he hooked his hand and the soul power descended from the sky and flew towards him. Seeing this, everyone's expression changed again and they wanted to go forward and fight for it. However, the array was still floating in the sky and protecting Leo. If they wanted to go up, they would have to resist the array. Haha, it's mine. Leo laughed and grabbed the heaven and earth soul light in his hand. Chapter 5290. When Zichen arrived, he happened to see that the soul power had found its owner. His expression changed slightly, and he felt very regretful. At this moment, the others also felt the same as Zichen. The youth in the distance had unwillingness in his eyes. He wanted to go forward and snatch it. It's mine. It can only be mine. Leonard's hearty laughter sounded in the world. Do you think you're worthy of fighting with me? The soul power fell into his hands. At this moment, Leonard was really full of confidence. Congratulations, my lord. Kit and the others hurriedly cupped their fists. Leonard became more and more proud. Buzz. The power of the ancient talisman dissipated, and the soul light disappeared in his palm. He planned to refine this soul light. Suddenly, he let out a scream and hurriedly let go of his hand. There was a hint of fear in his eyes. The soul light in his hand flew out again and flew into the sky again. Everyone was stunned, not understanding what had happened. Damn it! Luno shouted angrily. He was the only one who knew the reason. The energy contained in the soul light was too vast. If he insisted on refining it, what awaited him would definitely be his body exploding and he would die. The most important thing now was to think of a way to leave with that energy. But how could he leave? Standing under the formation, he turned around and glanced at the spirit tribe. Everyone, this soul power is abnormally terrifying. If you rashly refine it, your body will explode. If you protect me, after I seal it, I will definitely reward you greatly. As soon as these words came out, everyone's expressions changed. No wonder Leonard suddenly gave up. But why should they help Leonard? You think I'll explode just because you say so? At this moment, a person walked out. Let me try. If there's really danger, I'll lend you a hand. The person who walked out was the young martial artist. When everyone heard this, their expressions began to change. Obviously, no one was willing to miss such an opportunity. Okay, but you have to have the strength to come over. Leonard glanced at the young man. He seemed very confident. Obviously, he did not think that other than him, the others could succeed. The corners of the young man's mouth curled into a smile. Okay. After saying that, he strode forward. When the others saw this, they stopped and waited. The young man came to the edge of the formation. Back then, the hybrid demons were attacked here. He smiled slightly and walked straight forward. Buzz. A beam of light descended from the sky, heading straight for the young man. The light turned into a formation in front of him, and a terrifying aura surged out. The young man clenched his fist and punched out. Boom. The formation collapsed, and his body retreated several feet. Seeing this, Leo sneered and said, "If you don't have the strength, don't go forward, lest you embarrass yourself." The young man glanced at Leonard and said, "You're right." He continued forward, but this time, his gaze was much sharper. As a martial law master, it was natural for him to feel angry when he was underestimated. He stepped forward. They were nearing the edge. The formation descended from the sky again. The young man sneered, "Petty tricks." With that, he activated the core of true body. At his heart, a brilliant light bloomed. It was still a single punch. Boom. The formation collapsed, but he did not move at all. He was completely unharmed. This scene caused the expressions of the crowd to change once again. Core of the true body. Someone cried out in surprise. How could someone at the spell annihilation realm cultivate the core of the true body? Not only was the spirit race shocked, but even the hybrid demons were shocked. The hybrid demons' bodies were much stronger than the spirit races, but none of the people present had cultivated the core of the true body. However, this spirit race member actually had the core of the true body. "You're a martial law master?" Luo's expression became solemn. As a reserve Dharma soul, he naturally knew about martial law masters. The young man was angry, but he did not respond and continued forward. "Is there anyone else?" "Continue." After using a powerful force, he was naturally not afraid of Leonard. Leonard's expression began to change. Clearly, he did not expect that there would be another martial law master here. He thought that it was already very special with him here. Zichen stood in the distance. When he saw this scene, his expression changed slightly. This was the second existence that he had seen with the core of the true body. The first was himself. After a moment of silence, Leonard did not continue to attack. Although martial law masters were powerful, in the Tao of Soul, they were clearly inferior to Dharma souls. He maintained a certain distance from the young man to prevent him from sneaking an attack. "What's your name?" "Edmund." The young man walked forward and waved his hand toward the sky. The soul of heaven and earth fell and disappeared into his palm. In the next moment, the confident Edmund suddenly had a look of fear on his face. Like a frightened rabbit, he swung his hand and jumped back. The soul of heaven and earth returned to the sky. He had failed. The soul of heaven and earth was too powerful. If he tried to refine it by force, he would die. How was it? Leonard looked at Edmund. Edmund shook his head. "It's indeed terrifying. If I tried to refine it by force, my body would explode." When the others heard this, their expressions became complicated. Were they going to miss out on such a great opportunity? "Everyone, I'll take the soul of heaven and earth this time. Today, I, Leonard, owe each of you a favor. If you have any trouble in the future, you can find me at the Dharma Soul Alliance. I'll definitely repay the favor today. A favor from a future Dharma soul was still important. This made the ugly expressions of many leaders relax. Why don't I give it a try? Just as everyone was silently contemplating the matter, a voice suddenly sounded from behind. It was Zi Chen. Since he was here, there was no reason for him not to give it a try. Moreover, he hadn't broken through yet, so he wanted to try refining it, just in case his tolerance was stronger. Whoever knew that when Leonard saw Zi Chen, he didn't give him the chance but said coldly, "Kill him." When Zi Chen heard that, he was dissatisfied. "I say, what do you mean? If the others can try, why can't I?" Leonard asked coldly, "Where's Luo Tuo?" Zi Chen replied, "How would I know?" Me. Leonard looked at those leaders and said, "Everyone, kill him. Just a mere 4th stage realm cultivator and he still wants to join in the fun, he's simply seeking death." When the other leaders heard that, their gazes towards Zi Chen turned unfriendly. Following that, several auras locked onto Zi Chen. Sensing these auras locking onto him, Zi Chen was furious. "Who are you looking down on? Who's at the 4th stage realm of Dharma destruction? I'm at the 5th stage realm, all right?" He released his aura. He was indeed at the 5th stage realm. Back then when Zi Chen obtained the Heaven Dharma crystal and after refining it, the surging energy within it allowed Zi Chen to break through 2 realms consecutively. But along the way, Zi Chen had intentionally suppressed it and only used his 4th stage realm's strength in battle. Even a 5th stage realm cultivator must die. One of the leaders gave a sinister smile and charged towards Zi Chen directly. He was at the 8th stage realm and his terrifying aura instantly engulfed the surroundings. His murderous intent locked onto Zi Chen tightly. Zi Chen said, "Don't come over, I'll kill you. If you die, then don't blame me. Lad, how dare you boast shamelessly in front of me, I'm going to grind your bones into dust." Being threatened by Zi Chen, this leader felt extremely humiliated and insulted, so he started to berate him. He dashed towards Zi Chen swiftly as his killer move was revealed. Zi Chen, on the other hand, threw out a punch. Golden light sparkled. Boom. A loud boom was heard and this leader flew backwards. Golden air waves rolled and everywhere it passed by, the space seemed to be distorted. Blood lines were drawn in the sky. After landing on the ground, this leader lost all signs of life. Looking at Zi Chen again, his entire body was sparkling with golden light and at his chest area, it was even more conspicuous. It was as though there was a golden gemstone embedded there and the light was glaring. "Real body core." Exclamations were heard from all directions as everyone looked at Zi Chen, who was sparkling with golden light, in shock. Chapter 5291. The core of real body was a very rare item. Even among the Yimo, there weren't many of them. Among the Spirit Clan, the core of real body was much rarer than Dharma souls, hence there weren't many people who knew about it. Today, one Edmund had come and it was already shocking enough. But no one had expected that in a blink of an eye, another one had come. Moreover, it was a core of real body of a 5th-level Dharma annihilation realm. Everyone was in a state of shock, thinking to themselves, could it be that the core of real body was so worthless now? How could one come here so casually? Kit and the rest stood there as though they were dumbfounded. This person in front of them was really the Zi Chen that they knew? That fellow who didn't dare to talk back no matter how they ridiculed him? He killed an 8th-level Dharma annihilation realm with one punch. Kit and the rest were extremely shocked. In their team, a young man's heart was like a bottle of mixed feelings had been knocked over. He was originally following Vader and the 4 of them had an extremely good relationship. Unfortunately, after entering this place, he made another choice, which was to abandon Vader and follow Lun Ao. At that time, Vader told him that Sir Zi Chen was absolutely comparable to a legend. Unfortunately, he didn't believe it and chose to follow Lun Ao's side. Right now, Vader Trio had already advanced to the 2nd level of Dharma Annihilation Realm while they were still at the 9th level of Spirit Cultivation. Coming here, Lun Ao only cared about himself and had never cared about them. Zi Chen killed an 8th stage realm cultivator with a single punch, shocking everyone. The Mantis demons were shocked as well. On the Spirit Clan's side, there was already a Dharma soul and a martial art. Now, there was another one. They started to retreat, not wanting to stay in this troublesome place. Core of real body. A glint of surprise flashed past Lun Ao's eyes, following which he sneered, "No wonder you dare to be so arrogant, so you have such reliance. But you don't have to worry, just attack from afar. His realm is low, so even if he has the core of real body, it's useless." When he said this, he took a look at Edmund. Edmund was still in shock at this moment and didn't notice the change in Lun Ao's eyes. When the others heard that, they immediately stood far away and attacked. In an instant, various attacks were directed towards Zichen. Zichen called them idiots. Then he punched out. One attack after another, it was extinguished by his golden fist. "Yes, that's right," Leonard said, "we can exhaust him to death." When everyone heard this, the frequency of their attacks increased. It was obvious that they wanted to wear him down. Zichen grew impatient and said, "Enough." The next moment, he stomped his feet. A spell formation appeared in the air, and its range expanded to 8,000 feet. It enveloped all the leaders. Buzz. Gravity fell on everyone, and everyone's expression changed greatly. Then, countless rays of light surged out from Zichen's body, shooting forward like arrows. Pu. 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 The leaders were all sent flying. But this time, Zichen did not kill anyone. The leaders were all injured. After getting up, they all looked at Zichen in shock. Not only did he possess the core of true body, but he also knew how to use formation seals. At this moment, they had no choice but to re-evaluate Zichen. Vader and the other two were extremely excited. This was their lord. The hybrid demons who had retreated far away rejoiced at their choice. One of these existences was terrifying enough, but this time, there were 3 of them. If they wanted to kill them, none of them would survive. At this moment, they could only let them fight each other. Perhaps they could find an opportunity to take advantage of them. After making up their minds, the hybrid demons began to heal their injuries. Zichen walked forward. These leaders no longer stopped him, nor did they dare to stop him. They had to accept Zichen's mercy. Looking at Zichen walking over, Leonard looked at Edmund. "You all have the core of true body. It won't be a problem to suppress him." Edmund snorted. Regardless of whether he had made the promise earlier or not, he wanted to stop Zichen. It was for nothing else but the core of true body. Because his core of true body was not as strong as Zichen's. Even now, he did not dare to say that he could kill everyone present with a single punch. There was a difference between the two. He wanted to know what the difference was. With a tap of his foot, he rushed forward. Then, he triggered the core of true body. Zichen's body shone with golden light as he looked at his opponent, giving him sufficient respect. He punched out. When the 2 fists met, it was like a sudden explosion of thunder. Terrifying airwaves spread out in all directions. Both of them retreated several meters. Following that, they collided again. Boom. 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 The forest was filled with explosions. The 2 of them were like 2 rays of light, constantly entangling and colliding. Waves after waves of airwaves rolled, carrying a terrifying aura. Other than Leonard, who was guarding the array in front, the others all retreated. Because just the aftermath alone was enough to make them feel uncomfortable. How can he be so strong? Kit and the rest were unable to believe it. A 5th stage realm Zichen was actually on par with an 8th stage realm who had the core of true body. This was not luck, it was true ability. With the last loud explosion, Edmund retreated until he reached the array. After he landed, blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. Looking at Zichen, who was outside the array, he was unharmed. "Your physical body is stronger than mine." Edmund opened his mouth. Zichen said, "More or less." The 2 of them were 3 realms apart, but their physical strength was on par. This made Kit and the rest shocked. Edmund turned his head to look at Leonard. Join forces? He already knew the difference between him and Zichen. When he said that, it immediately caused an uproar. A martial artist and Dharma soul were going to join forces against an enemy, and a low-level one at that. You martial artists can afford to lose face, but we Dharma souls can't. Leonard snorted arrogantly and then hooked his finger at Zichen, making a provocative gesture. "Childish. Chen walked into the range of the array. Swoosh! A ray of light fell from the sky. It was the method used to block the mantis demons. But Chen didn't even look at it as a ray of light flew out from beside him. The ray of light blossomed in front and turned into an array, blocking Leonard's attack. Another explosion sounded. Both of them were defeated. If the previous battle was a battle of physical strength, then the current battle was a battle of arrays. No matter how many rays of light fell from the sky, Chen could easily deal with them. Explosions sounded from both sides, but Chen stepped forward calmly. He didn't use his physical body, but the seal of an array. At this moment, Chen showed his powerful side to everyone again. Leonard's expression gradually became solemn. Bang! His voice was cold. The light falling from the sky turned into an array with a terrifying aura. Chen was expressionless as he continued to move forward. A seal flew out in front of him and blocked the aura. Fire! The array in the sky rotated, and countless flames poured down from above. It was vast and mighty. Blazing waves of air spread in all directions, making people's hearts palpitate. Facing such an attack, Chen didn't even raise his head. A huge array appeared above his head like a jade plate, isolating all the flames. It couldn't hurt Chen at all. Chen was approaching. Leonard's many methods were useless, and he seemed helpless. The hearts of the surrounding people shook again. Was this person comparable to a martial artist and Dharma soul? Do you see it? This is Lord's strength. Chapter 5292. Vader was very excited as he watched Chen fight Lon. Lanshan and Ongeli were also cheering loudly. Everyone on Kit's side was dejected. This was especially true for the person who had betrayed the team. If he had known this would happen, he would not have betrayed them. Seeing that the array was ineffective, Lon started to form seals. Light flickered in front of him, and a fierce tiger appeared. Roar! The tiger roared in the forest, and the sound waves spread in all directions as if it was a real attack. Everyone's expression changed when they saw this. Edmund was secretly guessing how many punches he would need to destroy this array tiger. And how many punches would Chen need? See, Sir hasn't used any powerful moves yet. Kit's spirit was shaken when he saw this. I hope I can kill him. That traitor also silently thought in his heart. Chen did not attack. He also formed an array and chose a fair fight. The array in front of him circulated, and a fire dragon appeared. The fire dragon moved forward and fought with the fierce tiger. Dragon tilde tiger tilde fight. With a rumble, the two mutated beasts disappeared. Lon used several more arrays, but they were all neutralized by Chen's arrays. Everyone outside was shocked. After all, Lon was a future Dharma soul. Everyone could understand that he had mastered many arrays. After all, that was his specialty. However, Chen was not a Dharma soul reserve. How could he have so many arrays at his fingertips? And they were not the same. He was fighting someone 3 levels above him, but he was equally matched with Lon. It was enough to see how extraordinary Chen was. Did you see that? Vader sneered. Sir's strength is right in front of you. Sir didn't care about you before. But you think you're so great. In the past, Kit and the others had spoken very harshly, both to Lord Chen and to them. The mockery and ridicule were endless. Orlando and Lon were also adding fuel to the fire. Today's opportunity was rare, and Vader naturally would not miss it. Kit and the others could not refute at all when they saw the battle. You're courting death. These voices naturally reached Lon's ears, and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. Today, I'll show you the true power of a Dharma soul. His expression suddenly became extremely solemn. As soon as he raised his hands, an anomaly appeared between heaven and earth. The sky suddenly darkened, and black clouds began to roll. Occasionally, lightning would appear in the clouds. A formation appeared out of thin air, circulating with a destructive aura. The surging lightning in the sky became increasingly berserk, as if it had turned into a lightning snake, rolling about in the dark clouds. A suffocating pressure appeared between heaven and earth. Everyone present felt an unprecedented threat. It was as if death was approaching. Even Edmund's expression turned solemn. Chen inclined his head and stared at the sky. A familiar divine imprint appeared in his mind. Lightning gathering divine imprint. Ever since I created the Great Thunder Formation, no one has been able to survive under this formation. Leonard looked at Chen and said coldly, "Now, you can die." Thunder rolled down from the sky like mighty heavenly thunder, bringing with it a destructive aura. Great magic thunder formation? Chen shook his head. Changed his name? Looking at the falling lightning, he no longer bothered about the name of the formation. After obtaining the inheritance of the divine imprint, Chen had too many divine imprints in his mind. Immediately, he began to form seals. Light appeared in front of him, forming a formation. The aura surging from the formation was not strong, but Chen seemed to have consumed a lot of energy. His face was pale. Deliberately mystifying. Leonard did not feel threatened by the formation, so he sneered. Chen took a step forward and stood on the formation. His body swayed slightly, and his face became paler. It seemed that this action consumed a lot of energy. Everyone was puzzled. Compared to the lightning gathering in the sky, Chen's formation was too inconspicuous. In the next moment, Chen stretched out his hand and grabbed in front of him. It was just a feint, as if he had grabbed air. However, a change happened. A strong light suddenly shot out in all directions. A sword slowly appeared from the center of the formation and fell into Chen's hand. Buzz! Chen held the sword hilt and pulled out the long sword from the formation. On the sword, light shot out in all directions, and countless lightning snakes swam on the surface. Leonard was stunned at first, then his expression changed drastically when he saw the lightning on the sword light. Spirit-slaying sword. How is this possible? This formation has long disappeared. Where did you learn it? Spirit-slaying sword? Chen held the sword hilt and said indifferently, "No, this is called the immortal vanquishing rune." This was not a sword, but a divine imprint that appeared in the form of a sword. He raised the immortal vanquishing rune high and pointed its tip at the sky. The lightning in the sky came down. It was a grand and majestic sight. It did not fall on Chen, but on the immortal vanquishing rune. The immortal vanquishing rune did not collapse. Instead, it absorbed the lightning, and the light that burst out became brighter and brighter. Its aura also became more terrifying. It absorbed Leonard's attack. Everyone was startled, shocked beyond belief. It's time to end this. Chen chopped down with one move. Buzz! The void trembled, and the lightning turned into a sword mark that went straight ahead. Edmund immediately jumped away. This sword made him feel a life-and-death crisis. The light of thunder instantly drowned Leo. Rumbles sounded. Mournful cries of agony rang out. Hearing Leonard scream, Kit and the others could not believe that their lord would be defeated. Legend, haha. Vader was still laughing. Suddenly, the scream turned into laughter. Haha. The formation in front of Chen had disappeared, and so did the immortal vanquishing rune in his hand. He looked ahead with a strange expression. When the lightning dissipated, Leonard stood there unscathed. A golden bell floated above his head. The destructive power of thunder was completely blocked by the golden bell. Haha, Lord has a supreme treasure, a supreme treasure. When Kit and the others saw this, they also shouted excitedly. Previously, they were really worried that their lord would be killed by Chen just like that. Vader was stunned. Lan Shan and Ongeli's expressions also changed. Only then did they remember that Leonard had a supreme treasure on him. At this moment, there was a trace of worry on their faces. It seems that you have more than one incomplete formation. Under the golden bell, Leonard looked at Chen and said sarcastically, "You've hidden yourself well along the way." Chen was silent. He felt that this was a tricky situation. "I originally wanted to play with you, but now I've changed my mind." Leonard's hand seal changed. "Now, I want you to die." In the sky, the bell rang. Clang. The destructive aura went straight for Chen. Chen tapped his foot, and one formation after another appeared, blocking in front of him. At the same time, he formed hand seals with both hands, and another formation appeared. However, it was useless. As the golden wave surged past, All the formations were destroyed. Bang! Chen was sent flying more than 10 feet away. Dharma Soul World Destroyer Bell. He stared straight ahead, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Haha, you can't do it anymore, right? This time, it was Kit and the others' turn to laugh at Chen. With the Dharma Soul World Destroyer Bell here, don't even think about living today. Let's go again. Leonard laughed sinisterly, and the golden bell vibrated again. The patterns on the bell lit up one by one, and the terrifying ripples surged again. Chapter 5293. In front of the Dharma Soul World extinguishing bell, Chen was powerless. Bam! The power of the golden bell vibrated, and Chen was sent flying for the third time. Kit and the others, as though they were the masters, began to shout loudly. Sir, kill him. This guy hid his strength all the way. He must be up to no good. Kill him. Don't let him go. They shouted loudly, occasionally casting provocative looks at Vader and the other two, sweeping away the haze in their hearts. Edmund, who had already retreated far away, looked at Leonard's golden bell with fear in his eyes. He clearly did not expect that the other party would have such a treasure. So what if you hid it? In front of absolute power, all your hidden methods are just asking for humiliation. The golden bell hung above Leonard's head, his expression full of disdain. Chen stood up again, blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. He actually had many ways to deal with the current Leonard. However, these methods could not be used at the moment. Once exposed, it would definitely cause endless trouble. Take this golden bell for example. The other party was just an imitation, while he had the real thing. However, he did not dare and could not take it out. Thus, Chen used the previous move again. He pulled out the immortal vanquishing rune from the array and slashed forward. Clang! The bell rang, instantly destroying the sword light. Stop struggling. It's useless. Leonard pointed to the ground. Kneel down and apologize to me, and I'll let you go. Clearly, after gaining the absolute upper hand, he began to humiliate Chen. That's right, quickly kneel down. Do you want to live? If you want to live, kneel down. Kneel, quickly kneel down. Kit and the others also began to shout, cheering for Leonard. The tables had turned, and they firmly believed that Leonard was the victor. Vader and the other two had ugly expressions. Vader said angrily, if you have the ability, don't use weapons. What are you doing? Leonard heard that and said disdainfully, he will die even if I don't use weapons. As a Dharma soul, apart from being familiar with arrays, our strongest method is actually soul power. Next, I'll let you ignorant fools take a look. Although he said that, Leonard did not put away the golden bell. Instead, he used his soul power on top of that. His soul force was like a bolt of lightning, flying towards Chen. Chen's sea of consciousness was hit, but there was no reaction. Even if he was only in the 5th degree realm, his spirit power was not any weaker than Laro Ao's, so this level of attack naturally wouldn't be able to hurt him at all. Who would have thought that Luo Ao would continue? That was just a demonstration, the killer move is just beginning. A wisp of his soul power entered the golden bell. The golden bell vibrated. This time, the destructive aura it emitted was even more terrifying. Everyone present felt a strong sense of threat. Pu. Chen was the first to bear the brunt. He coughed up blood. Speaking of which, even if the real thing was in his hands, it might not have such power. Who would have thought that an imitation would be so terrifying? I'll let you take another look. Chen was already being suppressed, and the outcome of the battle was clear. At this moment, Luo Ao wanted to show off his skills, and a streak of soul power flew out from his sea of consciousness. His soul power gathered in the air, forming a large bell. It looked very similar to the world-extinguishing bell. Dang! His soul power vibrated and turned into a wave that attacked Chen. Even the attack was the same. What is this? Feeling the destructive power in it, Chen was astonished. You don't even know about such a materialized spirit technique, you're really ignorant. Luo Ao's face was filled with ridicule. Chen was shocked. If it's just a materialization of soul power, why does it have a trace of the world-extinguishing bell's power? What do you think the world-extinguishing bell is? It contains the heaven and earth veins. It's the immortal soul race's great Tao. As long as it can be materialized, it will naturally have a trace of the great Tao. Luo Ao ridiculed. Even if I told you, a country bumpkin like you wouldn't know. This kind of thing contains the principles of heaven and earth. How can it be something that you can control? As he spoke, the golden bell materialized from soul power appeared once again. Luo Ao said proudly, "See, in order to materialize it, I don't know how many years I've studied before it has such power." He pointed at his feet and said arrogantly, "It's still the same sentence, kneel down and I'll spare your life." Zichen decided to give it a try because in terms of understanding of the golden bell, probably no one could surpass him. The soul power in his sea of consciousness surged, and in the next moment, a mass of soul power flew out, as if it was refining a weapon, changing in front of him. Looking at Zichen's condensed soul power, Luo Ao said disdainfully, "Your soul power is not weak, but if you want to materialize the world-extinguishing bell, it's simply a dream. Do you know the veins inside? Do you know how many arrays there are inside? Do you know how they cooperate with each other?" Then, Luo Ao shook his head, "I'm simply playing the lute to a cow by telling you this. You can't even figure out the appearance." As soon as he finished speaking, there was a sudden fluctuation in front of him. Buzz! Zichen's soul power spread out, and a large golden bell appeared in front of him. The golden bell floated in the air, the runes on it flickered, and ripples surged. "This is the world-extinguishing bell." Looking at the golden bell, everyone was stunned. Because at this moment, the golden bell in front of Zichen was almost exactly the same as Luo Ao's imitation. How is this possible? Even Luo Ao was shocked, and he was in disbelief. The world-extinguishing bell that Zichen materialized was the same size, and it was so lifelike that it could be mistaken for the real thing. How did he do it? Even if his soul power was strong, he had never come into contact with the world-extinguishing bell, so it was impossible for him to materialize it. There were all kinds of doubts in this matter. Maybe it's just strong on the outside but weak on the inside. Luo Ao thought silently in his heart. At this moment, Zichen began to control the manifested golden bell. Dong! A melodious bell sound rang. On the golden bell, all the veins lit up, and countless divine veins shone at the same time. A destructive aura also surged out and went straight ahead. After sensing this aura, Luo Ao's face changed drastically, and his eyes were filled with shock. This kind of power was definitely not strong on the outside but weak on the inside. He immediately controlled the imitation and launched the same attack. The terrifying energy collided with each other and continued to melt. They were actually evenly matched. How is this possible? Luo Ao lost his composure and exclaimed. How could the power of the world-extinguishing bell that his opponent materialized be comparable to his imitation? One had to know that his imitation was created by an expert in the world-extinguishing bell. So that's how it is. After Zichen displayed this attack, he finally understood the reason. Naturally, he was able to do what he wanted. As for the so-called world-extinguishing bell, he only needed to completely restore it. After all, he had this kind of thing with him. Dong! The bell rang for the second time, and this time, more divine veins were mobilized. Like a destructive tornado, it swept forward. This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Luo Ao roared and activated the imitation with all his might. The melodious bell rang again. But this time, after blocking the tornado, his hair was messy, and his robe was full of cracks. He looked very miserable. "I don't believe it, go to hell." Luo Ao roared and unleashed the strongest attack of the imitation. But it was useless. Although Zichen's imitation was a soul manifestation, it clearly showed the essence of the imitation. It blocked all the attacks. Luo Ao's strongest attack couldn't do anything to Zichen. He was defeated. He didn't want to admit it, but he had to. Let's join forces. In the end, Luo Ao asked Edmund for help. A trace of disdain flashed past the corner of Edmund's mouth. Didn't he just say that the world-extinguishing bell wanted to save face? But he still chose to join forces. If he didn't kill such an existence today, who knew how strong he would grow in the future? When Zichen heard this, he was happy. "You really don't want to give up?" Since that's the case, let's have a fight. Golden light shone around him as he activated the immortal golden body. Edmund roared and charged forward. Chen punched out. With just one punch, golden light shone. Boom. Edmund flew backward, and the sound of bones breaking could be heard. Chapter 5294. Chen's punch directly broke Edmund's ribs. Victory and defeat were immediately decided. Edmund only possessed the core of true body, while Chen had the immortal golden body. The two were not on the same level at all. Edmund's quick defeat was also out of Leo's expectations. He immediately activated the World Extermination Bell, and a melodious bell chime sounded. This time, Chen did not resist with the Soul Bell. The main reason was that the consumption was too great. If both sides continued to fight, he would not be able to hold on for too long. Hence, he leaped. Under the golden light shining around his body, he blocked the golden bell's attack and approached the other party. One punch. It was still one punch. The golden bell vibrated, and the ripples on the surface immediately dissipated. The golden bell began to sway, clearly becoming unstable. Boom. Another punch. This time, the golden bell's luster dimmed. It could not even fly in the air. The restrictions on the surface all disappeared. Pewalk. Lon below also coughed out a mouthful of blood, and his face instantly became pale. Looking at the dim golden bell, it was obvious that it could no longer protect him. Hence, he quickly retreated. After Edmund's ribs were broken by one punch, he did not dare to go forward again. At this moment, the two had already given up that area. Chen was too strong. Even if the two of them joined forces, it was not enough. The others in the distance, including those fiends who wanted to watch both sides suffer, gave up some thoughts at this moment. Chen raised his head and looked at that soul power light. The soul power light floated quietly, releasing a faint soul power. Feeling the ancient intent within, Chen did not hesitate and directly reached out his hand. Lon and Edmund looked at each other in the dark. If Chen refined it at this moment, his body would definitely explode and die. Therefore, this might be an opportunity. Right at this moment, the soul power of heaven and earth fell from above and arrived in front of Chen. Swoosh. The next moment, it entered Chen's sea of consciousness. Chen felt a pure and surging soul power from it. As for danger, he did not detect it. Hence, he did not hesitate and directly refined it. Buzz. The soul light shook, and a vast aura surged in all directions. Like a terrifying soul storm, it began to wreak havoc. Under this storm, no one dared to approach. Everyone retreated far away. Chen, who was at the core of the formation, stood indifferently. He allowed the soul power to wreak havoc in his surroundings, but he did not move at all. This is impossible. Impossible. Leonard, who had retreated, immediately shouted when he saw this scene. He was all too clear on how terrifying that strand of soul force was. It was simply impossible to refine it. The slightest use of this power would cause his body to explode and die. In other words, even if he only used a trace of soul power, it would be enough to burst his sea of knowledge. However, Chen was 3 ranks lower than him, yet he was actually refining the soul power without any life-threatening danger. It's mine, it's mine. Leonard almost lost control and roared as he charged forward. Unfortunately, the soul power storm was too terrifying, and he couldn't get close to it at all. If they insisted on going forward, they would only be torn apart by the storm. As he watched Chen refine, he regretted his decision. If he didn't waste an ancient talisman to find that strand of soul force, Chen wouldn't have this chance at all. On the other side, Edmund was also extremely shocked. However, he wasn't as hysterical as Leonard. Because he had come into contact with it personally and knew that he could not refine it, let alone bring it away. Therefore, no matter what, this strand of soul force was not fated with him. In Chen's perception, this strand of soul force was not much different from the previous one apart from that trace of ancient intent. The soul force that entered the sea of knowledge did not strengthen the soul force after being absorbed by the soul. It seemed to be repairing the deficiency of the soul force and filling in the gaps of the soul force. In Chen's view, there was no difference. However, If it was seen by some insiders, they would definitely be shocked. Because this meant that Zichen's soul force was on par with this heaven and earth soul force in terms of quality. Only then could it fill in the gaps. It could be said that although Zichen's soul force was not the soul force left behind from before the Age of Chaos, its quality was not weak at all. As time passed, the terrifying storm of soul power gradually weakened. In the end, it completely disappeared. Zichen stood there with his eyes closed. There was no change in his aura and it was no different from before. After absorbing so much soul force, he actually did not break through the realm. Everyone felt that it was inconceivable. Could it be that he didn't succeed? Leonard, who had lost control, sobered up a little at this moment. According to Zichen's current state, he didn't look like someone who had successfully refined the heaven and earth soul force. One must know that the energy contained in that strand of soul force was simply too vast. Not to mention a mere 5th stage realm, even if it was a 9th stage realm, after refining, he should be able to break through the realm directly. Just like before, just the soul force that fell from the sky had helped him to break through the realm. But now, Zichen's aura was still the same as before. He definitely didn't refine it, otherwise he would have broken through the realm directly. According to the energy contained in that strand of soul force, it shouldn't have directly sent him to the 8th or 9th stage realm. Leonard was increasingly convinced of this point. Zichen has failed. As for that strand of soul force, it must be hidden. After all, it's so cunning. If it wasn't for the ancient talisman, it's impossible to find it. After thinking through this point, he was in a good mood. It seemed like no one had obtained it. Next, they just had to wait. Just at this moment, the heaven and earth suddenly started to shake. The earth split open, mountains collapsed, and cracks appeared in the sky from time to time. These were the signs that the Pure Land was about to collapse. What's going on? Everyone was stunned and didn't understand what was going on. Let's go, this place is about to collapse. Zichen couldn't be bothered to sense his own body's condition. His figure flashed and he appeared in front of Vader and the other two. A light door opened in front of Zichen. He pulled the three of them and entered the light door. It's gone. The opportunity is gone. The heaven and earth soul force is gone. The Pure Land can't be maintained and is about to collapse. Damn it, there are still so many opportunities here and they are about to disappear along with the Pure Land. There are still so many soul skills that haven't appeared. Why are they about to disappear? Damn it. The others began to curse and swear loudly. Other than that strand of soul force, there were many other opportunities here, just that they weren't as valuable as the soul force. But now, they were all gone. Now that the Pure Land was about to collapse, everyone could only leave one after another. When Leonard reached the outside, he seemed to have lost his soul. He was dispirited and listless. Kit and the others stood beside Leonard, all of them looking as if they had been hit by frost. On the other side, Vader and the other two were abnormally excited. After coming here, they were the ones who broke through the fastest. Now, they were already at the 2nd level of the destruction realm. Those who came out all looked at Zichen with ugly expressions. Because of Zichen, they had missed a great opportunity. At this moment, Zichen was also standing there and began to sense his own condition. It was only at this moment that an ancient aura of soul power surged out. When the people nearby sensed this soul force aura, their expressions changed drastically. The trial has ended. Everyone, leave. Zichen and the other three stay. Chapter 5295. As soon as this sentence came out, everyone had to leave even if they didn't want to. Lun Ao stood there, gritting his teeth. This time, his loss was really too great. How could he be willing to leave just like that? His expression was changing, as if he was making a decision. He seemed to be hesitant. The next moment, he gritted his teeth and made up his mind. Buzz. He disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Zichen. There was a talisman in his hand, made of paper. This was an ancient talisman from before the chaos. It was definitely a rare item. The ancient talisman was triggered and turned into a huge palm, grabbing toward the approaching Zichen. A terrifying aura surged, and the surrounding space began to distort. This scene was completely unexpected. No one could react in time. You're courting death. The middle-aged man only had time to shout. Vader and the other two were in despair. Because the energy of the ancient talisman went straight for Zichen, it only had the effect of confining Zichen. To the others, it was a disaster. Once the destructive aura approached, it would definitely destroy the three of them. Even if the three of them were already at the second level of the law destruction realm. The middle-aged man didn't have time to make a move. At this moment, the bell rang. Clang. Golden light lingered and shone down, protecting the four of them. It was the world annihilation bell materialized by soul power. Then, Zichen's body shone with golden light, and he threw out an immortal punch. He didn't accumulate power quickly, so his power was lacking. Boom. The fist light landed on the palm, but it didn't shake the other party. The fist light shattered, and the palm continued to move forward. The light of the golden bell immediately dissipated, and at the same time, the world annihilation bell in the sky also exploded. There was no way to stop it. However, this short moment was enough for Zichen to shake the three of them out. Vader and the other two retreated. Zichen was caught by the palm. "Sir!" Vader and the other two shouted. At this moment, they finally reacted. "Haha, you'll follow me next." Lun Ao laughed proudly and prepared to escape with Zichen. Suddenly, a sharp aura soared into the sky. This was a sword light that pierced through the palm and pierced into the sky. Buzz. Cracks appeared on the palm that was imprisoning Zichen, and then it broke apart. Zichen's body swayed and collapsed to the ground. He held the slaughter spirit in his hand. "You're courting death." The middle-aged man finally arrived and struck out with his palm. With a bang, Leonard coughed up blood and was sent flying. "You dare to launch a sneak attack here? Do you want to die?" The middle-aged man stared at Leonard coldly. Luno shouted hysterically, "He stole my world soul power. I'm going to take him back to the Mage Soul Alliance." Impudent. This kind of opportunity belongs to the virtuous. The middle-aged man snorted, "When did it become yours? I was the one who used the ancient talisman to find the heaven and earth soul force, so it's naturally mine." Luo Ao was still shouting, "How precious is an ancient talisman? Why should the world's soul power be given to him? You were the one who found it, so why didn't you refine it?" Zichen stood up and said sarcastically, "Do you have the ability?" As soon as he finished speaking, Zichen immediately formed a seal. Buzz. The golden Buddha fire lotus appeared. This was to prevent Leonard from escaping. "Sir, he launched a sneak attack here. What crime is this?" Zichen looked at the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man said coldly, "Death penalty." Leonard shouted, "You dare to kill me? I'm a law soul." The middle-aged man said disdainfully, "Not to mention that you're just a little reserve, even if you're a true law soul, breaking the rules here means death. Since that's the case, then go to hell." Zichen directly stepped forward and threw a punch at Leonard. Killing intent filled the air. Leonard subconsciously took out the imitation golden bell and blocked in front of him. Unexpectedly, Zichen's fist didn't land but hovered there. After the previous battle, the world extermination bell's light had dimmed, and its power was much weaker than before. "Since you're so sincere, then I'll kindly accept it." Zichen didn't kill him and snatched the imitation golden bell. Sensing the soul power of Leonard's master, Zichen forcefully destroyed it. After refining that soul power, although Zichen didn't know what changes there were, the grade of his soul power had greatly improved. Destroying Leonard's recognition was not a problem at all. Puff. Leonard coughed up blood again. He had lost his connection with the imitation world extermination bell. His eyes stared at Zichen. Zichen put away the golden bell and turned to leave. Previously, he already regretted not snatching Luo's golden bell. After all, he had the real thing on him, and he would definitely use it in the future. It would be very troublesome if he suddenly took it out. Zichen knew the principle of not showing off one's wealth better than anyone else. Now that he had such an imitation on him, he could use it as a cover. If he took out the real thing next, people would probably think it was an imitation. He had to admit that Leonard had helped him a lot this time. Otherwise, if he took out the golden bell in another place, it would be troublesome. he would definitely be in trouble. There was also the Dao sword. It was it that cut open the ancient talisman. It was just that at the last moment, Zichen changed it to the slaughter spirit at the last moment. As for Leonard's life and death, Zichen didn't care. The others all left. Zichen's group of 4 stayed here, and someone led them into the room. A moment later, the middle-aged man came. The moment he saw Zichen, he said, "I didn't kill Leonard." Zichen nodded, indicating that he knew. The middle-aged man said again, "My name is Almai, I'm the person in charge here." Then, he smiled again, "But this place will disappear soon, and we will also leave." Almai took out a token and said, "This is an assessment token. Take it and go to the Soul Law Alliance to participate in the assessment. If you pass, you will be a Soul Law in the future." Zichen looked at Almai. "You are from the Soul Law Alliance?" Almai said, "Yes and no, I can barely be considered half an alliance member." Zichen said, "You have seen the conflict between Leonard and me. If I go to the Soul Law Alliance, won't I be walking into a trap?" Almai said with a smile, "You don't have to worry about that. The Soul Law Alliance is very big. A mere reserve member can't reach the heavens. Moreover, the Soul Law Alliance's mission is to recruit geniuses. After you go, you might be put in an important position soon." Zichen nodded and took the token. Then, Almai looked at Vader and the other 2, "As for the 3 of you, when you return to the Pure Land of the Alliance, there will be arrangements." The 3 of them nodded. After Almai left, Vader said, "Sir, we will go out first." The 3 of them wanted to send this good news back to the Alliance. After all, he had broken through several realms. After the 3 of them left, Zichen set up an isolation array. Then, he took out the golden bell. The 2 world destruction bells floated in front of him, both shining with golden light. At first glance, there was no difference, but if one sensed carefully, they would find something unusual. That was because the imitation was made of some kind of material. On the other hand, Zichen's genuine golden bell was made from countless divine runes, so it was fundamentally different from the real one. It was precisely because he knew this that Zichen's golden bell formed by soul power was so powerful. Zichen injected a wisp of soul power into the imitation. The imitation began to glow, and it was getting stronger and stronger. Buzz! With a tremor, golden ripples fluctuated and surged in the array. Zichen directly refined this imitation. There was no difficulty. So in addition to the divine runes, there is also the power of the material. After refining, the imitation no longer had any secrets in front of him. He activated the 2 golden bells at the same time. Suddenly, a devouring force appeared on the real golden bell. A wisp of golden light was forcefully extracted from the imitation next to it and swallowed by the real one. Chapter 5296. Zichen activated the 2 golden bells at the same time, wanting to see the difference between the 2. But he didn't expect the real one to start devouring the imitation. Wisps of golden light were forcefully devoured and fused into the real one. The real one absorbed the golden light, and some of the divine runes in its depths gradually recovered. Beams of strong light were released one after another. Zichen came to a realization. No wonder he felt that the real one was inferior to the imitation in Leonard's hand. It turned out that the strength of the imitation was partly due to the divine runes and partly due to the material. However, the strength of the imitation had already reached a limit and couldn't be stronger. The real one was different. There were too many divine runes inside that were sealed, as if they were sleeping and hadn't been activated. Now that it had absorbed the power of the imitation, a portion of the divine runes in the real one had begun to recover. Once all of them recovered, it would probably regain its former glory. This made Zichen see hope and he was extremely excited. "All right, I'll use you from now on." Zichen looked at the real one. In the future, he would treat the real one as the imitation. No one else would know anyway. Speaking of which, Zichen had given the golden bells to the monk and the others in the past for them to use for self-defense. But after advancing to the Dharma destruction realm and the monk and the others came here, Zichen took them back and kept them by his side. It was the same for the Dao sword. Now, he knew the origin of the 5 golden bells. The Dao sword was naturally even more extraordinary. Unless it was a moment of life and death, he would definitely not take it out. The two golden bells flew directly into Zichen's sea of consciousness. At this moment, a pitch-black ocean appeared in Zichen's sea of consciousness. These were all soul power. It was deep, quiet, and gave off a peaceful feeling. But it could go berserk at any time. Once it went berserk, the vast ocean of soul power would be the enemy's nightmare. At this moment, the heaven and earth soul power had yet to be completely refined. It was like a black sun floating above the ocean. Wisps of soul power came down and injected into the ocean. This gentle refinement should continue for a long time. At this moment, Zichen felt that his soul power had strengthened. It seemed that he was not far from breaking through. Hearing Veda's voice, Zichen walked out of the room. It turned out that everyone was already preparing to leave. Without the suppression of the soul power of heaven and earth, this place would collapse. The group of 4 left the place. When they reached the entrance, they saw Curson and the others waiting for them. The hunchbacked old man was also there. Even Orlando, Kit, and the others were present. This surprised Zichen. He had thought that they had already left. Especially Leo, this guy was actually here. As the 4 of them walked out, the gazes of Carson and the others fell on Zichen. They had already heard about what had happened inside. "Hey, come here." Orlando looked at Zichen arrogantly. Zichen looked at Orlando. "I heard that you stole Lord Larrow's world annihilation bell." Orlando stared at Zichen and said angrily, "Why are you so rude? Sir Leo is a guest invited by our alliance. Don't you know how to treat a guest?" Zichen was amused. "I didn't kill him. Isn't that being polite?" When the others heard this, their expressions changed. "Impudent." Orlando was furious. "In your eyes, is there still an alliance? Lord Larrow is a guest of the alliance. You should treat a guest with courtesy. Hurry up and return the replica world annihilation bell to Lord Larrow." He pointed at Zichen and scolded, "I don't blame you for being a country bumpkin who hasn't seen the world and doesn't know how to treat a guest. Now that I'm teaching you, you have to listen." Zichen narrowed his eyes and a chill appeared. "Do I need you to teach me? Hurry up and take it out," Orlando said impatiently. "Also, hand over your soul power of heaven and earth. It doesn't matter if you've refined it, but you definitely haven't refined it completely. Give me the rest, lest others say that our alliance doesn't know how to treat a guest." Zichen sneered. "It seems that you know everything." "Of course." Orlando glanced at Zichen. "What are you waiting for? Hurry up, don't wait for me to make a move. Otherwise, you'll have to suffer." "Why?" Lord Larrow got it. Veda was angry. "Shut up." Orlando snorted. "Impudent. Since when is it your turn to speak? You've lost the face of the alliance. I don't know if it's a loss of face, but I know that you won't live for long." Zichen's eyes flashed with killing intent. "What? You want to kill me in front of so many people?" Orlando glared at Zichen. "Isn't it enough that you killed Speck? Now you want to kill me?" He pointed at Zichen again. "I'll lend you 10 times the courage. Let's see if you dare to kill me. Let me tell you, dog, if you kill me, there will be no place for you in the alliance in the future. Without the protection of the alliance, a person like you can only die." After saying that, Orlando was so angry that he spat on the ground. "Dog, don't you see who saved your dog life? If it weren't for the protection of our alliance, would you have survived until now? Do you think that you're superior just because you have the soul power of heaven and earth? Do you want to devour your master? Let me tell you, in front of the alliance, you're still worse than a dog." Zichen took a deep breath. "Although I don't know why you are seeking death like this, or perhaps it's because you know a lot but don't know the most important part. But that doesn't matter. The end result will be the same. Why, you still dare to." Before Orlando could finish his sentence, Zichen's palm had already landed on him. A loud slap. A slap landed on Orlando's face and immediately, a clear fingerprint appeared. "You dare." Orlando held his cheek and stared at Zichen angrily. Alas, before he could finish his words, he was sent flying by Zichen's kick. When the others saw that, No one stepped forward. Chen approached Orlando and kicked him again. This time, he stepped on his face directly. Orlando shouted out loudly as his 8th stage realm aura exploded out. A terrifying air wave spread out in all directions. Those who were nearby all retreated. One had to admit that Orlando was really strong. Chen's body was shining with golden light. This energy wave was useless against him. Another stomp. Orlando began to scream. Only then did he realize how powerful Chen was. Chen was expressionless as he kicked him again and again. But his gaze was getting colder. There was killing intent in his eyes. "Kill me if you have the ability," Orlando roared. "You dog, if you have the ability." "Sir." When Vader heard that, his expression changed. He sensed that things were not going well. "Sir, please don't be fooled by such provocation." Alas, it was too late. Chen stomped his foot down, accompanied by a rumbling sound. The terrifying energy entered Orlando's body and destroyed his life force. He was dead. When Leonard saw this, a sinister smile appeared on his face. "Amazing, you even killed your own people. I really don't know how a hybrid demon spy like you managed to sneak into the Alliance." Chen turned his head and looked at Leonard coldly. He gave a sinister smile. Killing one is killing, so is killing too. He wanted to kill Leonard.